Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Think about this for a few moments, if you would. Only in America could people claim that the government still discriminates against black Americans when they now have a black president, a black attorney general, and roughly 20% of the federal workforce is black, while only 14% of the population is black. 40+% of all federal entitlements goes to black Americans, 3 times the rate that go to whites, and 5 times the rate that goes to Hispanics. Yep, we're really discriminating, aren't we? Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning. I love that lady and the way she sings. God bless America, Kate Smith. Hi, I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. Big tire sale going on. Don't forget, too, some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at, of course, 459 Overland and Burley. And our dear friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call 734-6969. You know, running this program and putting it together is just absolutely dependent upon my gals, and that's, of course, Gina and Deanne, and I appreciate all their effort. Good morning, Gina. How are you?
Good morning, sunshine. It is a beautiful day, and we're into the show.
We've got a lot of things to talk about today. We're going to highlight a lot about the upcoming speech that's going to be given Saturday night at the King Fine Arts Center, and that's by Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. And I want to say thank you to you for helping coordinate some of it. And tomorrow, we're going to do a repeat. I know it might sound dated. There might be something in there that dates the material. But at 10:06 tomorrow morning, after we have Governor Otter on, we're going to, at the top of the hour, have the repeat of the Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North recording Visit With Me on the program from March 10th.
And we're also going to be giving away a pair of tickets, which, by the way, if people want to go to the Facebook page, like, share that status, that's going to be your chance to win. And, of course, to get onto Zeb's Facebook page, just get onto his website, zebbell.com, and click on that Facebook widget.
All right, Gina, do we have a pledger?
We have Rotten on for the pledge and Mr. Michael Rogers on for the weather.
Very good. Rotten, my dear friend, go ahead, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, I hate calling you that nickname sometimes because you do such a wonderful job and you're a dear friend, but God bless you and your wife. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome.
All right, my friend. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever you are going to do, wherever you're going, wherever you've been, make sure that everything you put in the back of your truck bed, your pick-em-up truck, arrives with you, and protect all of your equipment. Whether it's all your tools, your groceries, or your saddles, your tack, everything, protect it with a shell from Save on Shells, 1835 Overland and Burley. Anthony is the man, 312-1525. I'll tell you more about Save on Shells, but right now, here's Michael Rogers with the weather.
Good morning, everybody. From, let's see, where are we at today? I'm giving you your weather forecast from the home of the world's largest flea market. At least one of them, anyway, Quartzsite, Arizona. You got yourself a nice day. In fact, you got a nice day with sun and clouds for about the next 10 days. Now, the difference for this week versus next week, you're going to see daytime highs in the 70s. Next week, you're going to see daytime highs in the 50s. Now, it's going to be breezy today. You're going to have winds out of the southwest at about 10 to 15 miles an hour. Overnight low will be about 51. Daytime high today. They're looking to break a record today. Looking for a high of 77. The record was 76. Other than that, enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. MichaelRogersWeather.com, the best weatherman anywhere. And brought to you by Save On Shells. Anthony and the crew with the new ARE camper shells. I'm telling you, they've got all the different models. And believe me, all the installation parts and service. And stop over. Pick out one that absolutely is going to look phenomenal and do the job for you on your pickup truck. And they got a fantastic selection of used shells. Don't forget, they can and will find anything you want. These are great folks. That's where I bought my camper shells. Save On Shells, 1835 Overland and Burley. The best to have because I know I bought one. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. In just a very few moments, a good friend of mine, very good friend of mine, Mr. Ron Ellis, will be calling in from Seattle, as a matter of fact, this morning, and we're going to talk a little bit about Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. I want to remind you, too, about our friends at SafeLink Internet. Oh, boy, Idaho's #1 choice for high-speed Internet. They have done the job for us. And, you know, here about a year ago, we had a windstorm go through here. You remember it. It tore a lot of things apart and everything, and we needed some service work done. I mean, those folks were right here. Their technicians are absolutely phenomenal and very polite. The best. SafeLink Internet, Idaho's #1 choice. Call today. Get on the program. 677-8000. 677-8000. SafeLink Internet. The best. Oh, and by the way, talking about the best, I also have to talk about our friends at Darrow's Cleaners, and they're located at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. We were just over there yesterday, as a matter of fact, and dropped off a bag of my old Rumply Crumplies, Wranglers, and sports shirts and everything else. You stop in, everything you take in, you'll be absolutely shocked and amazed when you go to pick them up. They'll look brand spanking new. They are the best. Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Tip of the coffee cup. I forgot yesterday, and Gina didn't yell at me, and I think maybe she forgot too, but I forgot to have the tip of the coffee cup yesterday, and it goes to Vicki at Vicky's Country Gardens. It's such a nice pleasure to have her back on the air with us talking about gardening again. That's a good sign of warmer temperatures and good weather. And also my dear, dear friend Jack Euler in Twin Falls. A tip of the coffee cup to those two folks, and hope they have a very, very nice day. As you know, that we have moved our Zeb's Lunch Bunch over to Denny's Restaurant. They have got a perfect room for us over there. You can hear everything that's going on, and we're all sitting together like a great big happy family, and it is nice. They're located at 611 Overland and Burley, Denny's Restaurant. And, you know, if you want to give something a real nice gift, they've got gift cards available. The food is fantastic. The service is impeccable. It is great, and we're just tickled to death to be there. And stop over, check out the menu. I'll guarantee you, you'll start drooling. It's good eating at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland and Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. You stop in and see those good folks today. Coming up this weekend, and I'm going to check with Gina. Is Ron on the phone yet, Gina?
Yes, he is.
Thank you so much. Coming up this weekend is an event that I've looked forward to for a long time because not only do I respect this man and his viewpoint, I respect what he's done in service to our country, and that's Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North will be at the King Fine Arts Center in Burley at 7 p.m. this coming Saturday. It's a night of patriots and today's heroes, and one of my heroes and one of my best friends, Ron Ellis. Good morning, Ron. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. Doing great. It's a beautiful day in Pendleton, Oregon this morning.
Oh, you're in Pendleton. I thought you were calling from Seattle this morning. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm heading over to Seattle. I'm getting ready after your show here to head out.
Ron, I don't think a lot of people realize how important this Saturday night is, bringing in a true patriot to the United States of America, and that's Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, with his message about where this country's been, where we are now, and where we're headed. Give us your thoughts about this speech on Saturday.
Well, I agree 100%, Zeb. And of course, having served during that same time frame, I'm extremely motivated. What a great, true combat veteran he is, and a true patriot. And I mean, he has had the backbone to stand up for everything and never did waver, going clear back to the Iran-Contra committee reviewings and everything we went through there. So, yeah, this will probably be, in my estimation, one of the most inspiring events if people want to become repatriated again, that they can possibly attend. I'm sure looking forward to it.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there, and I want to stress the fact that tickets are on sale, and if you want to order tickets or wait till you get to the door, they'll be available at the door. Now, the number to call is 436-4149. I'm going to repeat that again, 436-4149. And I had Oliver on my program, and Ron, we're going to replay that interview we did on March 10th back on the program tomorrow morning. But now, you've served this country in the military, and you must be really kind of shocked as to what's going on with this administration and the cutbacks to our men and women that are serving this nation.
Well, I am, Zeb, and I know that all my brothers and sisters that have served and those that have served in combat can identify with the same feeling, and that it's just a shame. But I think more important than that, for our community, for this Saturday, is it would be a total disgrace if we can't get people out to this event and honor Sergeant Workman for his life that he gave in Afghanistan. And sorry, I'm getting a little choked up here, but anyway, I'd like to put out a challenge. I'm going to get back from Seattle. I'm going to break away a day early so I can help with these ticket sales. To any company out there, any of the fertilizer and chemical companies I deal with, any of the fieldmen out there, any of the local companies, I'm going to try to get around and spearhead tickets around and help Mrs. Workman out. But anybody that can sell those tickets, and the ones that sells the most, I'm going to offer a full-day guided float trip down the South Fork of the Snake River, which is a value of about $500. And there's some little thing that I can catalytic do and hopefully make a difference and get people to realize that we need to support this. You know, those guys that served in combat, we all work hard, we all get tired, but they don't have time to get tired. You know, you've got to fight off battle fatigue and just sleep deprivation, and so we need to rise up, pull our boots up, and support this event.
Absolutely. This man I'm talking to, Ron Ellis, is absolutely one of my dearest friends and served this great country, and Ron has helped so many times with so many different events, and he's always there. I mean, he's the leader of the pack, and that challenge from Ron Ellis, I hope everybody heard that, because we really need to get people in the audience at the King Fine Arts Center at 7 p.m. this Saturday night at Burley, right there at the King Fine Arts Center, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. And tickets again, 436-4149. I want to stress that number, 436-4149, or right there at will call at the door, buy your tickets. But Ron, I want to say thank you to you for everything you do, and I'm looking forward to having you come back into town and seeing you this Saturday night.
Okay, Zeb, and let those, I just want to publicly let those folks know that I deal with. They've got my phone number. They know how to get a hold of me, and I will physically run tickets around to them. But, man, there's no more beautiful float than that Snake River. I'll tell you what, let's get cranked up, sell some tickets, and I'll sure honor that.
You always have, Ron, and call me when you get back, and I absolutely say a salute to you for what you're doing. Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North coming in on Saturday night, Ron Ellis, with his challenge to everybody to be there and be an American and pay tribute to what we're trying to do for the Chris Workman Memorial Scholarship Fund. And Ron, God bless you, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks a million, Zeb.
All right, take care, my friend. There you have it, Ron Ellis inviting everybody to please be there Saturday night. This is really something. I mean, it really is something that we're going to be getting Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North to come in here and speak to our area. A night of patriots and today's heroes. I'm going to be there. Deanne's going to be there. I don't know. I haven't checked Regina's schedule. I hope she's going to be there, and I hope we can all sit together. And I'm just absolutely looking forward to it. And Ron just issued the challenge. Everybody out there, please be there Saturday night for Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. Got to pay some bills? Thank you very much once again to my dear friend Ron Ellis. I want to remind everybody, too, about Valley Wine Home and Ranch. You know, I was really, it really kind of smacked me in the face the other day when I talked to the county extension office, and fair time isn't that far away, and all the 4-H'ers are getting ready with their projects. They're working with their animals and everything else. Everything you need for your livestock projects right there at Valley White Home and Ranch. And by the way, you'll receive a 10% discount on 4-H feeds and haulers and show sticks and all that type of thing with Steve and the rest of the crew at Valley White Home and Ranch. 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Check out all the clothing. I mean, the spring and summer clothing is there, the hats, the boots, everything else. It's all there. Everything you need for the farm, the ranch, and the home. And the family, Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. We're going to be talking about a story in California, as a matter of fact, about a set 2 that happened in a class in a California high school in just a moment, so stay tuned for that. I really want your opinions on this. Don't forget, incandescent light bulbs are supposedly, with this administration and this government, with all their stupid regulations, a thing of the past. But no, they're not. Ramsey Heating and Electric bought a whole bunch of incandescent light bulbs, 40, 60, 75, and 100 watt, and you can go get them. I bought a box full. And I tell you what, I am not going to have the government tell me what I can sit and try to read by, okay? Stop into Ramsey Heating and Electric and check out all the incandescent light bulbs. Check out all your electrical needs, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. And that's, of course, Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. I don't know if you heard this story or not. I saw the video. But a teacher, a California high school student, was in the class of the wrestling coach/teacher when this one student decided that he was going to deal drugs in the classroom. The student was dealing drugs in the classroom, and this male teacher confronts the student. And the student stands up and hits the teacher. I mean, pow, lets him have it. The teacher, being the wrestling coach, takes the kid down right in the classroom, and guess what happened then? The teacher gets suspended. The teacher is a very well-respected man in the community. He's done a lot for civic work. He has his wrestling team do so much in the community, etc. This teacher that basically defended himself took the kid down that was dealing drugs in the classroom. Instead of being suspended, the teacher should have been rewarded. But this mamby-pamby wussy, hands-off the little smiling punks attitude that the school systems have got nowadays is endangering the lives of teachers. Now, Gina, did you see this story and follow up on this story at all?
I did, and actually, the students and the community, this happened in Santa Monica, California.
Yes.
They are actually rallying behind the teacher, and they're calling for the superintendent's resignation and to reinstate this teacher because they feel that the teacher did the right thing.
Yeah, but Gina, the question I got for you right there, pardon my interruption, is the teacher, in our opinion, did the right thing, but where did it get so far off base in this country that you've got these punks, these worthless punks sitting in the school system, and they're either carrying weapons or they're dealing drugs or they're members of gangs? Where did we let the animals run the asylum?
I have no idea when that happened, because I know when I was in school, we still got Big Bertha.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about without even asking.
Yeah, when I was in school, we still got Big Bertha. And when that actually changed, I don't know. But these kids cannot run our school districts. Kids cannot run the country. And so I'm sorry, but as a parent, I applaud this teacher for doing what he did and for standing up for not only himself but for the classroom and saying, dude, no, you can't deal drugs in my class. Come over, and if you're not, I'm going to take you down, which is exactly what he did.
I saw 2 attorneys last night on television, and I was absolutely appalled. I just bought a brand new 55-inch television, and I came within a hair's breadth of throwing one of my Tony Lama boots through the screen last night.
Don't do that.
These 2 attorneys were sitting there in agreement that the teacher was in the wrong. The teacher should, they said, have let the drug transaction go. He should have contacted the authorities. He should have been non-confrontational. I'm telling you, that's the problem with America today. We're non-confrontational, and we're not standing up for what's right and what's wrong.
And the teacher is the authority in the classroom. Did people forget that? The teacher is the authority in the classroom.
I would have been so much better served with this story had the teacher absolutely decked that student and taken him out. These are punks. These are worthless, no-good punks that are sitting there smirking in the classroom, endangering the other students, endangering the teacher. And for this teacher to get suspended, I'm going to try to do more. And if there's any kind of a legal defense, I'm going to send him a check. I absolutely think that teacher should be protected and given a raise and rewarded for what he did.
Now, here's my question, because I haven't done any follow-up since yesterday afternoon. Has the parents of this student spoken out at all?
That I don't have information on yet, because that wasn't made available at the particular time this story came out. So I can't answer that question, nor would I speculate, because we only deal in facts here. But I guarantee you one thing, that teachers all across America, especially on the East Coast, I've had so many stories, and you as a journalist have had stories, where they're living in fear. They're going to school and they're afraid to turn around over their shoulder and look who's coming up on them, because these punks, these worthless punks that go to school, whether it's drug dealings, whether it's gang transactions, whatever it is, they're afraid to stand up in front of the classroom.
And like you had stated earlier, you know, the rhetorical question, when did this all change? I mean, when you went to school and when I went to school, we respected our teachers. The teachers were in control of the classroom. Ultimately, it was the principal and the superintendent who were in control of the school. But if you were doing something in the classroom that you weren't supposed to be, then you got dealt with by the teacher.
Yeah, but now listen, let me ask you as a mother and as a journalist, there's a simple answer to this question. What do you think that is going to do to change the personality of the school when the students see that the teacher gets suspended for standing up for what's right?
Oh, the complete lawlessness.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We are aiding and abetting these worthless punks and lawlessness and drug abuse right within our school systems because this teacher stood up for what was right. There was a drug transaction going on right in the class. He went over and confronted the student hit him, and at that point, all bets are off. The teacher should have just absolutely wiped up the floor with that kid.
Yeah, and one thing, I guess, that helps out this teacher is that there were a whole bunch of students who had their cell phones in their hands, and they were videoing this. And all of the students, they're in support of the teacher. The entire community is in support of the teacher.
Absolutely.
So what does that tell you about the community? I have a lot of respect for the community of Santa Monica right now.
But nationwide, there is this, oh, don't touch my child. Little Johnny and Susie are so special. Oh, no, they can't be reprimanded. That's the problem with America today.
You know, and if my son was caught doing something like this in school, I would hope that he got Big Bertha.
Amen.
I would hope that he was taken down by the wrestling coach to teach him a lesson that he cannot be doing that.
I'm going to get Big Bertha if I don't get some commercials in.
Yeah,
okay. Stand by. Travel Lube Supply with my dear friend Jim McCall, and I'm anxious to hear what Jim's got to say on Thursday. He's always coming on our program and giving us some great specials. Remember, for all your tools, all your oils, all your shop equipment needs, it's right there. They've got everything, all the nuts and the bolts, and by the way, they have the bolt bins. They have a kind of a little route service where they go around, have bolts will travel, metric and standard. They've got them all. They've got all your filters. They can clean your filters, save you money. I mean, all of this is with Travel Lube Supply. Travel Lube Supply, 1050 West 203 south of Heyburn, 438-8730. Travel Lube Supply, they deliver the goods. It is time for the Capital Press Ag Minute, and it's brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Whether it's gas furnaces, air conditioners, or heat pumps, you and your family will enjoy the comfort through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Here's the Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly. Idaho farm leaders and environmental regulators will use the state's negotiated rulemaking process to try to reach an agreement over a 1972 fugitive dust law. The rule allows regulators to control fugitive emissions and provides fines up to $10,000. Idaho's farm industry is concerned the law could be used to fine agricultural practices that create dust. Idaho Department of Environmental Quality officials say they don't intend to use the rule to target normal ag practices, but it's DEQ's definition of normal farming practices that concerns producers. Following the negotiations, DEQ will publish a proposed rule that is subject to approval by the 2015 Idaho Legislature. This is Brandon Tenner. For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
Absolutely. Thank you very much on behalf of Lennox Home Comfort Systems and Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. In just a second, I'm going to ask Gina to play an interview she did with Anna Workman regarding the Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. Stand by. I want to also remind everybody, Penetron Soil Conditioner by Maisie, with a 20-year proven record of increasing yield and quality of all Idaho crops, speeding germination, reducing crusting, improving stand, stimulating root growth, and microbial activity. I'll tell you what, the water savings alone, the irrigation water savings alone, will pay for the cost of the product, Penetron Soil Conditioner. It really does the job. Larger crop yields, better quality, Penetron by Maisie. Contact your fertilizer dealer, crop advisor today and ask for specifically Penetron by Maisie. Gina, if you would, please.
I'm talking with Anna Workman right now, and Anna, you've got Patriots Night with Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North.
Yes, Gina, we've got Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North coming in, and he's going to be at the King Fine Arts Center this Saturday, and the main program is going to be starting at 7 p.m. Anyone wishing to do a VIP meet and greet, that will begin at 6 o'clock. We have tickets available. They're $40 per person at the door. If they would like to do the VIP package, that is $100, but it's meet and greet, and it's prior to the program. You get an autograph book, front and center seating, and we will have photograph opportunities and items there.
If people want to get their tickets right now, how do they get them?
Go to the website, www.sgtchrisworkman scholarship. That's Sergeant Chris Workman Scholarship.com. Or they can call my number. It's 208-436-4149.
Thanks, Anna. That is for Patriots Night coming up this Saturday at the King Fine Arts Center, 7 o'clock in the evening. Get a hold of Anna. Get your tickets now.
I want to say congratulations to Gina. There's so much work behind the scenes on any and all projects and running a radio program and station, and Gina does a great job. Gina, thank you. That was very short, succinct, and to the point. We appreciate it.
Thanks,
Caller, I'll be right there. I promise. Stand by. Don't forget, this week is a special week because it's also the 42nd Annual Salmon Select Horse and Mule Sale up at the beautiful Lemhi County Fairgrounds in Salmon. Oh my! Starts on Thursday, Thursday the 9th, and goes all the way through Sunday the 13th. Holy buckets, this is going to be fantastic. Mule sale, mule competition with horsemanship and trail classes and packing competitions and barrel racing and team roping and a big horse sale, and oh my gosh, the list goes on and on. You don't want to miss it. It's a happening April 9th all the way through the 13th up at the 42nd Annual Salmon Select Horse and Mule Sale, Lemhi County Fairgrounds, this week in Salmon. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning. This is in regard to the teacher that got laid off.
Yes.
When my son was in the 6th grade, at that time, the teachers were not to spank kids. My son's teacher called me and said, "May I spank your son? There's 5 of the boys in here that are disrupting their class." And she said the other mothers would not allow it. And I said, "If he needs it, you give it to him. You do not need to call me again. You have my permission." And she was kind of shocked that I would do that.
You know, I want to say to you, compliments to you, and you probably did your son a huge favor by having the repercussions of his actions be ended once and for all. If she did spank him, what happened after that? Was there any more problem?
No, absolutely not. And she broke the paddle, and he had to make her a new paddle.
I love it. I love it. And I tell you something, ma'am, please, to all the bleeding heart liberals out there that are absolutely, their little Johnny and Susies are perfect and nobody can touch them and they can disrupt the classes and they can sell drugs in class and everything else. What are your thoughts about this poor teacher?
Oh, I feel so sorry for him. He had the right to do it. However, with the laws, he did not have the right. And I hope that the child gets kicked out of school, put into jail because he was dealing drugs, and that teacher gets put back into teaching his class.
Very well said. And by the way, I'm going to try to do some follow-up, and I know Gina and I both, I'll do some follow-up on this end, and then over there on the computer, she'll check it out. I do want to follow and see what happens to this student, because if they just let him off, the student off, with a slap on the wrist, basically, while he was dealing death-possible drugs right there in the classroom, the whole school system is a sham, and the principal, the superintendent, and the school board ought to be let go immediately.
I agree.
Thank you for your call. God bless you. Thank you much.
Thank you. You too.
You know, Gina, I know that there's an anti-spanking group going on across the United States now. Oh, don't touch little Johnny or little Susie. It will damage their psyche. You know, Gina, you're a parent now, a single parent. And your boy is very respectful, and I would imagine that maybe your dad and mother had a policy or two that, Gina, straighten up and fly right or else. My parents did, and it certainly didn't hurt me.
Yep, and funny how she was talking about how she told the teacher of her son to do what was necessary. I've told the teachers at his school, if he needs his bum spanked, do it.
Absolutely.
You don't have to call me, because if I have to come down, I'll take him right into the bathroom and I'll swat him in front of God and everybody. I don't care.
Oh, and right there.
If he is doing something to disrupt this class and be disrespectful to the teacher, he's of the age where you can spank his bum and stick his nose in the corner and get through to his head that what he's doing is not acceptable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for being, I think, an outstanding mom with that attitude. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You've got a phone call.
I'll take it in a moment. Don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental. By the way, they're looking for a full-time mechanic for the Burley location. New shop. Boy, they got everything brand spanking new over there at that location right there at 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. New shop, heated floors, everything. Hey, I'm telling you, you're going to work on some mighty fine equipment and some really nice people. They've got all the Coyote tractors, and of course they've got the Doosan loaders and excavators, and they've got all the great big Walker mowers to get the job done. What are you waiting for? You better talk to the people that know equipment and get the best. Either rent it or buy it right there at Barry Equipment and Rental. They've got locations in Twin Falls, Jerome, and Burley right there on Highway 30. Remember, it's Barry Equipment and Rental, the best. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment about the student in the classroom. You know, I used to tell my kids, too, and I had two, a boy and a girl. It's like, okay, that's your home away from home. Those teachers have a right to spank you. They had my permission from day one. You go for it, okay? And that's my opinion on it, too. So
let me ask you a quick question.
Wrong to this day and age. There's a spank, there's a swat, that there's child abuse. And to me, a little bit of spank and just a little bit of a, how would you say it, discipline, I guess, is like it never hurt no child. I grew up that way. My kids grew up that way, and they respect everybody, and they respect us for it. Thank you very much.
Oh, you did a great job. Thank you. That was well appreciated and deserved, that comment. I appreciate that. You know, again, we got to follow up on the story and see what happens to the teacher. He's also the wrestling coach at the school, and for him to get suspended, I think, is an atrocity. There is, however, Gina, right now listening to this program, there are those liberals that sit there and go, oh, I think that's terrible. They're talking about child abuse. No, I'm not. I'm talking about taking a child and molding them with the thoughts and the processes that are going to turn them into substantial, responsible adults. And if they're going to be dealing drugs in a classroom, any and all methods should be taken to stop that procedure.
Amen.
I'm just very upset about this.
And it's not child abuse. It is called teaching the child to respect authority.
Amen. Amen. And that's something you're not going to find a lot of. Don't forget, every Thursday, we have the lovely Vicki at Vicky's Country Gardens coming on our program with my program named after me, Gardening for Idiots. I'm not the best gardener in the world. She's teaching me. 185 South, 600 West of Paul, Vicky's Country Gardens. Stop in for all your garden needs in one stop. And now's the time. You better be tilling that garden and putting compost on it and everything else and planting a lot of things right now. Oh, yeah, Vicky's Country Gardens. Thursday right here, 10:12 to 10:20. No, that's not right. They're on at 9:12 to 9:20. I gave the wrong time, and it's my program. I'm sorry. Vicky's Country Garden. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
Okay, a lot of people don't realize, we've got a prison problem.
Mm-hmm.
And if they'd have done this molding, as you put it, when these kids were younger, we wouldn't have near the problem we have in our prisons right now.
Absolutely.
We're working out near the money.
Absolutely. Let me ask you something, Kilt Man. The general thought today from the liberals with the children is, I listened to a psychiatrist, and he needed to get on the couch himself the other day on the news, and he was saying, every time we raise our hands to our children, why, we're just saying that violence is okay, and we're advocating more violence in the future, and that's why they rebel, and that's why they have criminal records. And I sat there and I thought, there's more cowpucky on this television program than there is out in my corrals. I've never heard such garbage before. Nip a problem in the bud with these kids. Establish a rule of command and respect when they're young, and they will grow up to be that way.
Exactly. And a lot of it goes back to also, they're whining about child labor and stuff like that. Well, a lot of these kids that come from the farms and that are some of your best people out there.
Amen.
Because they've learned from a very early age how to work. And if more kids had that, even if they just had chores around the house and stuff to do, and they knew the consequences if they didn't do them, then they'd be a whole different person.
I complimented yesterday when I had on my program, I don't know if you heard Joel Packham, but he's the county extension advisor for Cassia County, and we were talking about kids, that have a project. They've got a purpose. They've got work to do. They've got chores to do. They know if they don't do the chores, they won't get done, and the animals won't flourish and prosper if they're not properly cared for. I absolutely stand behind kids that are in 4-H and FFA because they got a work ethic, for Pete's sakes, that a lot of kids don't have.
I agree.
Hey, it's good to hear from you, but stop in, my friend. The weather's getting good, and that porch out there on the side is nice and shady. Stop in sometime.
You got it, my friend.
Okay, thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, I agree with you. If parents and the school are not in charge of your child, later on in life, the law will be.
Very well stated.
If they don't develop worth ethics, they're going to end up on the street looking for a handout.
Thank you. I think I know who this is, and I say God's blessings to you. Thank you very much for your call. That was well stated.
You're welcome.
Have a great day. Thank you very much. Nice lady right there, and I absolutely appreciate that comment. I get these letters. Gina, I got to show you some of these emails sometimes. Oh, my goodness, you're just believing beating your children into submission. No, I didn't say that. I've never said that. But I absolutely think and believe that solid punishment at the time of the event is very necessary to curb and stop future events that are happening like right now. This drug dealing in the classroom. I guarantee you that in my day in high school, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm not saying that there wasn't something passed under the desk or whatever, but I am saying that, boy, the ramifications and the repercussions were going to come down on you in the school and when you got home, baby.
Boy, howdy, and you didn't want to get it when you got home.
Oh, not from my day.
I would rather have taken my punishment at school than what I got at home.
I would have rather laid down on a 2-lane highway and let 2 Mack trucks try to miss me than go home and see my dad.
Yeah. Because there's that fear there, that's the respect factor that your dad instilled in you, that you have respect for authority. That is that respect factor, and you didn't want to have to go home and face the disappointment and the anger from your father.
Absolutely. I've got to do the weather right now, and then I'm going to come back and tell you about one person, one complaint, shutting down an event that was going to be enjoyed by everyone. You're not going to believe this story. Stand by. Don't forget, right now it's time to tell everybody about Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. Wonderful people at 382 North Overland in Burley. Minor emergencies, major care. Walk-ins are welcome, no appointments necessary. And their 3 main goals are to get you feeling better soon, save you money, and, of course, get the best in care. Stop over to Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center when you got the aches and pains and maybe a cut, a scratch, whatever. They can take care of you. And minor emergency, major care is so true. Wonderful, folks. And right now, here is Michael Rogers Weather.
Hi there, Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. For the next 10 days, sun and clouds. No precipitation in the forecast. This week, we're going to see daytime highs in the 70s. Next week, we're going to see daytime highs in the 50s. But other than that, for today, got a nice-looking day. It's going to be on a bit of a breezy side. Winds are going to be out of the southwest, about 10 to 15 miles an hour. It will continue through this evening. 77 for the high today. They are looking to break a record with that particular daytime high. 51 for the overnight low. Enjoy the weather. It is the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. Wonderful folks. A great facility. The doctor will see you now, not in 4 or 5 days. I'll guarantee you they can help you. Stop in when you have a minor emergency and receive the major care at Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center, 382 North Overland in Burley. This next story it just makes me just so angry that one person, one complaint can shut down a community event that's being enjoyed by so many. This one person is a Muslim man, and his children attend a certain school, and the school every year at this time has an Easter egg hunt, and this one Muslim man, had a complaint against the Easter egg hunt, and he said it makes his children feel uncomfortable, so you have to stop it. Now here's the kicker. The school, on all of their printed material, their posters, everything, never once said Easter egg hunt. They know that they probably would get in trouble in this stupid day and age about mentioning anything that's of a Christian nature. So they didn't put the name Easter on the material, or the flyers, or the announcements. They just said egg hunt. Fun and games for the whole family. But here comes this one Muslim man, and he gets this event possibly stopped forever because he's offended by it and says it makes his children uncomfortable.
Switch schools and don't have your children go to it.
You know something, Gina? I have said this before on this program, and you have heard me. I am so sick and tired of paying attention to the extreme minority. They should have just tuned this man out. They should have said, thank you very much. Your children can stay home. They can watch cartoons. They can play out in their own backyard. They can do whatever they want. They don't have to be a part of it. It's not mandatory. But shut up, go home, and leave us alone, and let the 99% of the people and their children enjoy an event.
Yeah. And the school was smart enough to take the Easter mention out of it, so it's just an egg hunt. And so, okay, sir, if this event bothers you and you only have 2 kids going to a school of maybe 500, we will give your 2 kids a free pass for the day. They can stay home.
Why do we cater to these people?
Because I can't say what I want to say.
It's political correctness run amok. All it takes is one person, one squeaky wheel to absolutely destroy an event that has been well received, well attended, and appreciated by the families and the children. One Muslim man says his children feel uncomfortable, and all of a sudden the heavens rumble with thunder and the lightning flashes, and the teachers and the administration go, oh, we better quit, when in essence they should have very politely told this man to take a long walk off a short pier.
Speaking of political correctness and the Muslims, I think I'm becoming a big fan of Megyn Kelly.
Oh, I have been a big fan of Megyn Kelly because she speaks out not only from her journalistic viewpoint, but also from being a lawyer.
Yes.
I like the attitude.
Did you see this latest bit where she is not apologizing to CAIR executives because of a comment that she made on air saying that it had something to do with Sharia law and a movie that was out?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have heard many of her comments, along with her and Catherine Herridge. Catherine Herridge, of course, has been on this program in the past. You know that. And I am trying to get her back on, hopefully in the next week or so. But I appreciate and I applaud Megyn Kelly for standing up for what she believes in and not being cowed by one or two voices that want to have political correctness.
Well, and this particular group, it's the CAIR group. It's a Muslim, basically, PR group that wanted to set her up and demanded an apology for a comment that she made on her show about a woman, or about a video of Muslim women having to go through what Sharia law is. And she refused to apologize. And she just basically called him out on the air. And I think that woman has a lot of ethics, and so I'm becoming a fan.
Well, I'll tell you something that's going on in this country. And look at and listen to what I'm saying, and it's the truth. If it's a subject matter of a story regarding a Christian or a Jew, they will be denigrated and dragged through the mud. But if it's a story about a Muslim, we kowtow and we bend over backwards to make sure that they're not offended. I am not going to do that. I'm not going to kowtow to anybody.
We live in a country where we have the equal opportunity to offend anybody and everybody. And
I will. I just absolutely can't understand what is the matter with this, the greatest country ever in the history of the world. The history of the world. And we're letting one man, a Muslim man that doesn't like an egg hunt, notice I didn't say Easter, they didn't either. And he says it makes his children uncomfortable. Well, golly, life sometimes makes people uncomfortable, Gina.
Sometimes it does.
I'm sickened by this. Political correctness has run amok. Calls are welcome.
Like our First Amendment is being taken away. We can't speak our mind because we're afraid to offend anybody. I'm sorry. I have the right to speak. You have the right to be offended, and just call it as it is.
That's right, and let it go. You know, I got to tell you a story about Eric Holder in just a minute. You're not going to believe. This will really drive you up the tree. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric offering rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems. Yes, sirree, whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, or a heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. Call 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Also, big tire sale, huge tire sale going on at all 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Holy smokes, all the tires are on sale. Great time for a tire sale, right before a lot of people have to go to Grandma and Grandpa's and Aunt Martha and Uncle Fred's. A lot of touring this summer. Make sure you've got safe tires on your car, your pickup, and your SUV. If you're pulling a horse trailer or a boat trailer, my goodness, check out the great buys on all their tires during the spring tire sale. Of course, the best in brake service and batteries and shocks and struts, front end alignments. My goodness, it's all there for you. With Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, Twist Family and Paul, John on Poline and Twin, and Randy, my old buddy, on Overland and Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Hi.
I would like to say that I think Megyn Kelly is an amazing woman, and she really is feisty, you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
But also, when are Americans going to stand up and talk to these people who are immigrating to our country, not necessarily legally, and the horrible things they do to their kids and their women?
Oh, absolutely. You know, the Sharia law and the aspects of Sharia and Islam coming in with their culture coming to America. We've seen cases, and you know this is a true story, about the father down in Arizona that literally jumped over curbs and everything else with his Ford SUV to try to kill his daughter because she was becoming, in his opinion, too westernized.
Right, and they will kill their own kids if they don't abide by their law. And I think that if they're going to be here in our country and we are a law-abiding people, then they better start abiding by our laws, and some of them need to be in a cell somewhere.
Chris, America used to be a melting pot, and when you think of a melting pot, everything kind of melts together, molds together, and becomes a unit of one. Now we've got all these people coming from all over that want to have their own culture, their own language, their own laws implemented, and that's not a melting pot anymore. That's not America.
Right. And in the instance of the father that got the egg hunt taken away from the rest of the kids in the school, let's demand some changes in their religion, because that doesn't seem right that our kids who have done this for 200 years are not allowed to have this happen.
Well, I'm an advocate of it's not an egg hunt. It's an Easter egg hunt, and that's what I'm going to call it. I am never going to take the word Easter away or the word Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Those two holidays are sacred to Americans.
Well, you know, the more that we as Christians weaken and let those other people come in and basically denigrate and desecrate our holidays and diminish the value, it's our fault because we didn't stand up.
Well, and it's our fault that we're letting legislative people turn a blind eye, and we have no idea how many of those people are here, legally or not.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I just absolutely, the other day thanks Chris, we were talking about the denigration of America and all the values that we used to have. Well, one of them is our religious beliefs, and one of them is going to church on Sunday, and one of them is celebrating Christ's birthday, and that's Christmas. One of them is celebrating Christ's return and Easter and all the other values, and I'm not going to weaken it. It is Easter. It's not an egg hunt, it's an Easter celebration. I'm not going to change. We're going to take a little break right now, and we're going to listen to ABC News. They're going to mess everything up that we've tried to put back in place, and then we're going to come back next hour, and we're going to be talking to Daniel Simmons of the Institute of Energy Research on the absolute asinine wind farms getting more tax credits in the future. We'll talk about that. Then at 9:30, we're going to talk to my dear friend, Representative Fred Wood. Don't go away, lots to come. I'll see you in 6. Well, I'm not hungry anymore. Just had my piece of cheese. I feel like a mouse. Anyway, good morning, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell. Our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, including, of course, our friends at Lee's Furniture Floors and more at 459 Overland in Burley. And our dear friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
You know, they've got the Go Minis, the portable storage units, and I'll tell you what, those are really, really neat. Whether you're storing like all your tack, your saddles, your bridles, your blankets and everything, or maybe you got to store all your lawnmowers or your lawn equipment, your gardening tools, whatever, check out the Go Minis at Western Waste. Call them at 734-6969. And don't forget, get on the route service, have your garbage hauled away, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services serving you, 734-6969. Call them today, Western Waste Services, the best. And when we talk about that word, the best, I also want to acknowledge the fact that we are blessed with the best right here on this program, including our friends over at Hanson Mortuary with Joel Heward and his staff, owner-manager, 710 6th Street in Rupert. And they always provide the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort. You know, the staff is always committed to upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity and serving you in a very, very trying time with the passing of a loved one. Please contact them today, 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert, serving you and your family. We're going to go to the phone lines right now, and a gentleman that I always look forward to having on my program from the Institute of Energy Research, the Director of State and Regulatory Affairs, Dan Simmons. How are you this morning?
Doing pretty well, Zeb.
Dan, I, as you know, have nothing good at all to say about wind energy. I think it's absolutely, those wind towers are nothing more than cancers on the landscape. I think it's an energy source that is absolutely ridiculous. It costs more than what we'll ever get out of benefits. I think it's a waste of time, a frivolous waste of money through an energy program that is lacking in this country. Now that you've heard all the good points that I think about wind energy, what do you think?
well, what else could I say about that? I mean, but if wind energy, if they were, if utilities were just out, building wind turbines because people wanted to buy wind energy, okay, that's not a terrible thing, but it's much worse than that. The federal government subsidizes wind energy so much that the wind producers can actually pay the electrical grid money to take their electricity. Just think about that. As in, there are times when there's low electricity demand, and because what the wind energy needs is tax credit, the only way they produce tax credit is to produce wind energy. So what they do is they actually pay the electrical grid to take their energy. Like, just imagine if that were the case with gasoline or something, where oil companies would get paid, or would actually pay you to take their gasoline. That would be pretty awesome, but obviously that money has to come from somewhere, and that somewhere is you and me as taxpayers.
Dan, why are we committed to stupidity? Why is this country committed to being less than it can be or should be? Why are we committed to being less of a nation and less of a world leader through an energy program that's laughable?
It is that's a very good question. I mean, the first reason is because 20 years ago, when the wind production tax credit was started, people thought, oh, wind energy, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And the problem is that once something gets a part of law, it's very hard to reverse. And unfortunately, it's incredibly difficult because there's a lot of senators, for example, that have wind in their states and who otherwise are, more free market minded, but they're like, well, hey, this is in my state, so I want to protect it. Or, I have these, certain specific companies in my state. And so it becomes, once it's entrenched, it's incredibly difficult to pull back. And that is the story of wind energy and a whole bunch of other foolish boondoggles.
Okay, but Dan, in your opinion, and nobody would know this better than you, with your job and what you do, all the things that come across your desk, why is the American public not informed about the cost factors? Why are they not informed about really how absolutely ridiculous wind energy is as far as being cost efficient? Or do they not even care?
Well, I think there are two reasons for that. The first is that there are far too many people in this country who, that are, at a desk all day, that, live in the suburbs, that commute in the suburbs, that come into, that come inside and don't really think about where stuff comes from. They don't think about where electricity is generated, for example. They don't think about where our food is made, for example. They don't think about those things because, you know what, they don't need to. And that's actually a really good thing, that they don't need to think about where, stuff comes from. But the problem is it means that they vote, that they turn off their brains when they vote frequently. Because, stuff has to come from somewhere. That's a stupid statement, but people don't think about it. When people think about wind power, and wind power has great public relations. Wind power, people are like, oh, the wind is free, so that the electricity is free. Well, duh. Anybody who, thinks for a while, and when I talk to people about that, they're like, oh, yeah, so, even though the wind is free, the wind doesn't blow all the time, and you have to have something producing electricity when the wind isn't blowing. So when people think about it, then they understand. But the problem is people just don't people don't think about it because, people don't have to think about in their lives where stuff comes from, and unfortunately that results in bad policy.
I'm going to just come right out and say it. I'm one of these kind of people that if you got something to say it, get it off your chest. One of the Dunce Cap Award winners in the news media is Bill O'Reilly, and here's why. About a week ago on his program, he was advocating this new electric car that's coming out. He was saying every American should have this electric car. But here is Bill O'Reilly getting the Dunce Cap Award for being stupid because where's the electricity going to come from? Where are the grids of electricity going to come from after coal is shut down? How are you going to plug your cars in? How are you going to have enough electricity to have office space lights on or these great big high-rises to run the elevator clear to the top floor? Where's all this electricity going to come from? Wind power?
Well, and it's just not that, Zeb. Where's the stuff that makes the car going to come from? I mean, here's the thing that's absolutely insane. When you look at especially with electric cars, but also wind turbines and solar panels, some of the stuff that goes into that are these are powerful magnets that are made from rare earth elements. You know where over 95% of the world's rare earth elements come from? The Chinese. Mm-hmm. And it's not because we don't have rare earth elements here in the U.S. It's not that we couldn't mine them here. It's because, the environmental groups have shut down all kinds of mining in this country, so we can't even mine it. So when people like Bill O'Reilly say that we need to, switch to electric cars or something, for whatever reason, I have no idea. What that means is that instead of buying foreign oil, which, by the way, yesterday the Energy Information Administration said that in a couple decades we can actually quit importing oil entirely. Instead of importing oil, they want us to import rare earth elements from the Chinese. Now, that is absolutely insane. But, people like Bill O'Reilly that just ride around Manhattan don't actually think about where stuff comes. They don't have to think about, where the electricity comes from, that it comes from, a majority of, the largest share from coal. They don't have to think about what, all the steel and everything else that goes into making the batteries and making the car. When you don't think about where stuff comes from, you just say silly stuff.
Well, he's not the only one, but he's very prominent with his kind of pugnacious attitude of always knowing more than everybody else. When in honest answer to the question, Bill O'Reilly is very uneducated on many things and says stupid things regarding like electricity. But you know something? Here we are in 2014, and I will tell you, Daniel Simmons, with the IER, that this country, this world, can never, ever, in the next 200 years, ever quit entirely the use of oil for the mechanization of any country in the world. It's just not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen, and and there's a very simple reason for it, and that reason is because oil works. It's just that simple. It is, the great thing about oil is that that you refine it and you can use it for a whole bunch of uses, including chemicals and all that.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to like gasoline or diesel, people know how to handle it. You can transport it anywhere in this country. When there's a supply disruption, that stinks and the prices spike, but it also means that there's going to be, new supplies that go into that area. It's much easier to repair, something like that than if you're, if you don't even produce enough, enough electricity, for example. But oil works. It's just that simple. And one of the greatest things that is happening in the world is that the hydraulic fracturing revolution created here in the United States, it means that our oil production is increasing, and that is increasing rapidly. And the problem is that people like Bill O'Reilly or whoever else, and the president is one of those people, they don't look at this success story and they don't try to replicate it around the world, which would be fantastic for the good of the world, but they instead try to put the kibosh on it. I mean, in terms as in the Obama administration does. So we have this great story. We have dramatically increasing oil production in places like North Dakota, Texas, but the Obama administration is trying to shut it down.
Dan, this wind energy, and now we're going to probably see this thing turn around, and as taxpayers, we're probably going to have to fund more wind energy. It's absolutely a cancer on the landscape. It's aesthetically, it just is so ugly to the landscape. Southern Idaho, where I live, it's just barraged with these wind turbines and these towers, and I think they're absolutely appalling. But look at solar. We're wasting our money and our time and our efforts on solar and wind. We're not accomplishing anything. We're not taking any steps ahead on the monopoly board, and our energy program is zilch. We've killed off coal. We've killed off nuclear. We're killing off oil. Pretty soon somebody's going to walk in and say, we've got you, America. You can't do anything because you're relying on sources of energy that will never, ever work.
No, that's exactly right. Just yesterday, I watched a video about the state of the union. Since President Nixon, presidents during the State of the Union speech keeps on talking about, we got to reduce our reliance on imported oil. That's key, and everybody agrees with that. But then their prescription is what you've been saying. Well, we need more wind, or we need more, ethanol, or we need more solar. But you know what has actually led to a reduction in imported oil? Producing more oil at home. Mm-hmm. And we have all kinds of places that we're not allowed to look for oil, all kinds of federal lands, whether it's in Alaska or all throughout the West, where you cannot, look for more oil or offshore. If we're producing more oil, that means we're not importing as much. It is really, really, really simple, except for, of course, that inside the heads of some of these people that are in this, in Washington, D.C., where they try to make things far too difficult. Why they do, I have no idea. I think it is that they think that energy prices should be more expensive so that people so that people would use less. Why they believe that way, I don't. I think it's kind of their religious belief that energy is bad.
Dan, I'm really concerned about what's going to be happening over the next couple of months. I used to think up until about a month ago that Obama would have basically kind of a thought process that, I better go ahead and okay the Keystone Pipeline that might make me and the rest of the Democrats look good going into the fall election. But now I'm not so sure. I don't trust this man. I never did. I don't trust what's happening with the so-called energy programs. I don't trust what's going on with the Department of Energy, and I certainly do not trust the hangman's noose that the environmentalists have got around this administration's neck. I don't think he's going to sign the okay for it.
No, and who knows? I've never been, I've always been right in the middle about what he's going to do, and unfortunately, he continues to do nothing. I mean, that is what this president does the best, is do nothing on anything good. I mean, and that is really, really, really a sad commentary. Right now, you see the ethanol producers really ticked off at the railroads because of it's harder to find rail cars to move ethanol around the country because you can't move ethanol in a pipeline. And so they're mad at the railroads. And hey guys, hey ethanol producers, there's a very simple thing. Just, say that the Keystone XL pipeline should be built. If there's more pipeline, that means that you have more spare rail car capacity. But, for whatever reason, they don't do that. So President Obama continues to dawdle on the Keystone XL. I continue to be 50-50 about what he's going to do, and as a result, he continues to do nothing for month after month, year after year. It is achieving their goal because, part of their goal is to increase the cost of using oil. So what they're doing is they're making it more expensive for TransCanada, the people that want to build the pipeline, because they've already, they have all these carrying costs already. Now that just increases the cost for them. So the Obama administration is achieving their goal even if they are doing nothing.
How long would it take, in your opinion, Dan, not for this year, 2014, the midterms, but looking ahead to 2016, when we finally get a chance to say goodbye to Obama, don't let the door hit you in the posterior on the way out. How long would it take, in your opinion, for this country to reverse this idiotic, stupid, slanted towards the environmental greens? How long would it take to turn around an energy policy and put America back working and prospering again?
Well, unfortunately, that's a really tough question. If you have great leadership, it will not take long. I mean, a lot can happen in a year. But the problem is that we have not had good leadership on the environment for decades. Really since President Reagan. You had the most recent President Bush, who billed himself in some ways as an oil man, but then didn't do anything to actually promote oil production in the U.S. until the very end of his term. So, the problem is that we have decades of bad laws. And because of these laws, the courts frequently side with federal agencies, and the agencies, continue to ratchet down to make it more difficult to do, to produce stuff in this country, including oil and gas and coal. And because of that, we need to change the laws. We need to change the laws so that they protect the environment, and so you can actually produce stuff in this country. I mean, there's no reason that 95% of the world's rare earth elements, for example, should be produced in China. We should be producing them right here, including in Idaho, for example. I mean, this stuff can be done cleanly in the U.S. The Canadians do. The Canadians are able to have mining, for example, in their country without it being like the end of the world. And, we're able to produce oil and natural gas on private land, but not on federal land. We need to really fix that. Unfortunately, if we don't have good leadership in Washington, D.C., it's going to take, literally decades, I think, to get this country where it should be.
Dan, final thought here this morning is I call it the No Lobby, N-O lobby. Is the No Lobby, which is comprised of these wacko environmentalists and the liberal left and the Obama thinkers of everybody should live in a cave and burn buffalo dung to keep warm, is the No Lobby that powerful that common sense can't prevail and the Senate and the Congress can't just give them a swift kick in the posterior? Where did they get so strong? How did they get so strong? And why did we ever let the EPA become what it is today? I just don't understand.
Well, part of the problem is Congress. I mean, that's the problem. Congress has to fix these laws, because what has happened is something that sounds good, which is, well, shouldn't we have like some of the experts at some of these agencies make the decisions? I mean, aren't experts good at that sort of thing? And the answer is no, they're not good at that sort of thing, because like if you have an expert on a certain issue, that person makes that issue the most important thing in the entire world, to the exclusion of everything else. That means that if you study a particulate matter, dust that is, can be pollution, that's the most important thing, and that's what is causing all these problems. And so, when you have control by experts in Washington, you have a real problem on your hands, because then the courts are going to defer to these so-called experts. And the problem is, these experts have not produced a thing in their lives other than regulation and human misery. And we have to reverse that if we ever plan to pick up the pace and to really make America into what it can and should be.
And let me ask you a final thought here. It just hit me. How much bigger do you anticipate the push will be for wind and solar while Obama's still in office?
They will continue to go full bore until they can't go anymore. I mean, this year they will come out with probably billions of dollars in trying to give away billions of dollars in subsidies for wind energy or for electric cars and stuff like that. They will do everything they can, because part of it is just pure politics, and the people that run these sorts of companies or want to are contributors to the president's party, and that figures a lot in how that money gets spent.
I tell you what, Dan, I just wish we had brighter and happier things to think about, but maybe after 2016, I don't know. Daniel Simmons, Institute of Energy Research's Director of State and Regulatory Affairs, thank you again for coming on the program. You're always welcome. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Zeb. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you much. Wind and solar. It's like taking dollar bills and going to the Snake River Canyon and just saying, throw them all in. What a waste of money. It's idiotic. Oh, my goodness sakes. I want to say thank you 222 Colonel Dale Whipple. What a nice man. What a nice business. Whipple's Book Plaza at 222 West 11th Street in Burley. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And what a great place to go for books. Literally thousands and thousands and thousands, I'm not exaggerating, of books. And they've got all the items you need for Easter, and they've got it all. Great gift-giving ideas right there at Whipple's Book Plaza. And it's also the home of the National Pioneer Hall of Fame. You visit once, you'll never go away empty-handed. Whipple's Book Plaza, 222 West 11th Street in Burley, with Colonel Dale Whipple and his staff. Really nice people serving you. You talk about serving people, and that leads me right up to where I have to talk about two folks that I think really do a great job. And I know because I do business with them, and I trust them. And that's Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning. Boy, we all need to look at that. Employee benefits for our businesses. You know, make sure that you're covered. Make sure you're protected. Make sure you've got all the bases covered by talking to these professionals that really are dedicated and responsive to your needs. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Here's the number to call for an appointment, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Once again, this coming Saturday night, this weekend, don't forget, April 12th in Burley at the King Fine Arts Center at 7 p.m., Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, a night of patriots and today's heroes. Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North will be speaking at the King Fine Arts Center. Get your tickets now. Call 436-4149, 436-4149, and make sure you get your tickets. And also, I know tickets will be available at the door. That's at 7 p.m. this Saturday night at the King Fine Arts Center. Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. Very worthwhile. There is a big spring cleanup inventory reduction sale going on at our friends at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. You know, I love my recliner. Deanna and I both bought a recliner that fits us. You know, she's got the nice little petite recliner, and I got the great big leather wide bottom. And no comments, please. But anyway, I love my recliner. And they've got a selection of recliners that's second to none. You got to get in there and check it out. And along with that, all the furniture, all the sofas, all the accessories. And then when you talk about carpet, I mean, they've got carpet galore. And all the mattress and bedroom sets. Believe me, for your home comfort and for the beautification of your home, this is the place. With the big spring cleanup inventory reduction sale going on at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see those good folks today. Please put it on your calendar. Don't you miss it. Once again, I want to remind you, too, Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Yes, sirree, qualified Lennox Home Comfort Systems through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps. All your family will enjoy the comfort. That's right, at Ramsey Heating and Electric. You give them a call today. You know, we have many legislators, representatives, senators that represent our state that do a wonderful job. And needless to say, this is one of them. I always look forward to having him on my program because he's a straight shooter. He tells it like it is, and he means what he says. Representative Fred Wood, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Seb. How are you this morning?
I'm good, sir, and thank you for taking the time to come on our program and share with us some ideas and goals and thoughts about the legislative session and what's going to be happening in the future. You know, I had Speaker of the House Scott Bedke on yesterday, and I asked him this question, and I'll ask you the same thing. When you look at the overall legislative session for this past season of 2014, going into the budget, of course, for next year and everything, how satisfied were you as to the outcome of the legislative session?
Well, I certainly think it was far more positive than negative from this respect. And first of all, thanks for having me on this morning, Zeb. I really appreciate it. And I like to come on and talk to the constituents of Legislative District 27. I think everybody showed up prepared to go to work this year as opposed to showing up to have an argument and start fighting. The session was short. It was an election year, so unfortunately a couple of 3 things were put off because people didn't want to deal with them, just to be flat blunt about it. But that's fine. I think we did accomplish quite a little bit, actually. So I think it was a pretty good session.
Now, when you say some issues were kind of pushed under the table or under the rug and weren't talked about or passed on, let's be more specific and tell the people what your thoughts are on those.
Okay. Well, first of all, with respect to what's going to happen next year, I think that the one big issue that we did deal with this year, well, there was a couple, 3 issues we did deal with this year that were significant, and we made significant progress. Number 1 was education, and that will certainly be on the front burner again next year. Number 2 is water, and we finally started to address the issue of aquifer recharge for the Snake Plain Aquifer, which certainly needed to be done. And we made some money available on an ongoing basis for that. So those 2 things will be back next year, and they will be front and center, and we will continue to deal with those, I think, in a constructive and positive manner. A couple of things that will come up next year that did not come up this year is we have an indigent healthcare system that is incredibly expensive and incredibly inefficient, and we have to figure out how to at least get control of the cost there and figure out how we're going to take care of our people at a cheaper and better way than we're certainly doing now. And the other big issue that's going to come up next year is transportation. Transportation had a whole bunch of bills that were brought forward. Nobody wanted to deal with those because that principally is you're going to have to increase revenue, which is code for increasing taxes. That's the only way you're going to do it, Zeb. To deal with transportation shortfalls that we have, and I think the biggest argument there is just how much are we going to support the local highway district versus the state issues.
Let me ask you a question.
That is going to be a real sticky wicket, the transportation issue, but that will come up.
Let me ask you.
Those are the 4 things that I see that are going to be big issues next year.
Let me ask you this, Fred. When you talk about transportation issues, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really bad, 1 being not so bad, where are we in the state of Idaho as far as reaffirming our commitment to the infrastructure and the betterment of our roadways? How far behind are we?
We're pretty far behind, Zeb. I mean, there is no other way of saying it. You know, could it be worse? Certainly. I mean, we could have bridges that have already collapsed. We don't have that. We're right at that point to where if we don't start chip sealing a whole bunch of infrastructure and taking care of the infrastructure in the next 5 years, it'll be beyond that, and then you're going to have to start back at the basics. And I'm not an expert in transportation. I don't serve on that committee. But the long and the short of it is the next 5 years is absolutely critical. If we don't step up and start taking care of a lot of the infrastructure that we have that needs minor repairs at this point in time, we're going to be faced with major repairs in the real near future.
When we talk about transportation tax increases, I mean, are you talking about a gas tax? Are you talking about licensing fees? What are you talking about? Or all of the above? I mean, as a consumer, and you're a consumer just like I am, every time I go to the pumps and fill up twice a week, it's costing me roughly about $1,500 a month just to stay in business and do my job.
I would agree. And that, you know, the answer to that question, Zeb, is one of the everybody says, well, if it's that easy, go down there and do something. Well, it's not that easy. We have funded transportation previously primarily with fuel taxes, registration fees, etc. If you remember correctly, we used to have a ton-mile tax. Problem is, it was a bifurcated system, and it treated out-of-state entities different than in-state entities.
Right.
Primarily trying to protect our agricultural industry, as I understand the history of it. The problem is that as we develop more fuel-efficient vehicles, and as we develop vehicles that don't even burn fossil fuels, we need a different tax structure of how we're going to have industry fund transportation. And you got to remember that no general fund taxes at this point in time go into that, and that's something that I think we ought to continue. I really worry about putting general fund taxes into that. I think you're going to run into the same problem you run into with Fish and Game, and the arguments there if we try to put general fund money into transportation. So the issue is what kind of a new structure do we find and employ and build to fund transportation? And that's the real crux of the issue, in my opinion, Zeb.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but about a year ago, I think it was, Governor Otter had the idea laid out before you folks up at the legislative session that perhaps we should go on a mileage tax. All the miles on the odometer are taxed, and that money, of course, goes towards the transportation and upkeep and maintenance in the state of Idaho. And I, for one, came out against that because I would venture to say that 75% of my miles are driven out of state. So I feel like that would have been an unfair way to taxation.
And you know, I can't disagree with you. And again, every single solution that somebody brings forward, that there's a whole bunch of people that can sit around and say, well, you know, but that's not a just system. And here is why that is not a just system. And again, for all of those that are listening, if you've got any good ideas, please bring them to myself or Senator Cameron or Speaker Bedke, because we're willing to listen to you. But every single solution somebody's brought forward so far, there have been 10 times that number of people show up and say, but this is why that system is unfair. And again, Seb, if this were easy, it would have been done.
Absolutely. I agree with you. But let me get into another...
But we have to address it. We have to find a solution.
I agree with you. Fred, let me get into, if I may, another subject that it just seems like it keeps unfolding like a cheap cereal on Saturday mornings, like a Roy Rogers. Every Saturday morning, the bad guys are held in limbo till they go over the cliff the next Saturday morning. And I'm talking about this wolf issue. You know, you're an outdoorsman. You absolutely have served Idaho well as far as knowing about wildlife and fish and game, everything else. This issue just keeps getting worse. We had agreed to 10 breeding pair, 100 wolves. The numbers have just taken a multiplication factor of perhaps 10 times. We now probably have over 1,000. The environmentalists want more and more and more, and they want us to do less. This situation is just keep unfolding and puts more of the sportsmen at bay. What are your thoughts about the wolf issue?
Well, there was an article, there have been 2 or 3 articles in the paper in the last week, and interestingly enough, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service just put out their 2013 numbers, I believe, for wolves, where they said, I think we have 1,761 wolves across the entire Rocky Mountain area that they inhabit. Now, they're primarily found in 3 states, but they actually have wolves in 6 states, but principally in 3 states. Now, what the service says is that across their entire region, they want 450 wolves and 35 breeding pairs. Now, you got to remember, though, that that's across 6 states.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, Idaho's effort to that should be 150 wolves and 10 breeding pairs. And I don't have a problem getting down to that. And I don't think, but here's the real problem, Zeb. the service is never going to allow us to use poison, nor would I ever recommend using poison.
Right.
But if you talk to wildlife biologists, and in fact their own biologist specifically stated that he's not concerned at all about the wolf population as long as you don't use methods like that, because you're never going to control them. You could open the season year-round. You could have unlimited wolf tags to anybody who wanted them for a nominal fee. You could get after all of the wolves for free that depredated livestock or personal property, etc., and you're still going to have a viable wolf population. I don't know what anybody's concerned about here. Well, we ought to be doing a lot more in getting after the wolves than we are.
The ambiguity of this situation just drives me nuts. You know, at the turn of the century, the last century, there was an outright blatant attack on the wolves because they were killer predators and everybody wanted to get rid of them. Now, today, we are forced to pay through the nose to bring them back into society. They're trained killers, man. That's all they want to do is just take something down. Whether it's an elk or a deer or somebody's cow or their calf, they want to kill just for the sake of killing. We've brought them back into our society. Their numbers have flourished, and now we have to remanage them, and the environmentalists are crying foul. I don't see how we can ever win.
Well, Zeb, if you want to argue, you're going to have to call somebody else. I agree with you. I think we're doing as much as we can possibly do now, and not have people filing lawsuits. Now, they're already going to file a lawsuit with respect to what the legislature did this legislative session. I think they're wrong. I don't think that's a diversion of any funds whatsoever. It's as simple as that. And secondly, if for whatever reason we can't use the $110,000 out of Pittman Robertson and Dingle Johnson funds, we certainly have other funds within the Department of Fish and Game that we can use that are not federal funds with those restrictions. So I think that's a bogus claim on their part, but unfortunately that's part of doing business today in the with the respect to the ideas that people have about what we ought to be doing with the environment. But we just have to keep on getting after them as hard as we can every day.
You know, Fred, the issue that's got me very concerned, and I've had my dear friend and your friend Jack Euler on my program many, many times discussing this, and others like Attorney Grant Gerber out of Elko, etc. The sage grouse issue looks to be what might be the closing of the book as far as the West is concerned. How concerned are you that they will go ahead and list that bird as an endangered species?
Well, those hours of the day that Fred Wood gets very cynical about life, I almost believe that they're going to do it no matter what. I don't think that that's a good approach, however. I think we need to continue to believe that if, in fact, we can actually, figure out a way to do this, to stave off listing, we're going to be a lot better, because it is going to be truly a sad day if they're listed. That's going to tie up all kinds of public ground, public grazing rights, etc. And we just have to do everything we can, Zeb, to try to prevent that.
Absolutely.
That truly will be a sad day.
We have a caller with
that's their intent. I'll just say it. When I was on the Fish and Game Commission, we fought that. It's the same with red-banded trout. They tried to declare all of the streams in the West threatened waters for red-band trout, and had they been successful at that, they would have closed a lot of rivers to a lot of things. This is just a tried and true tactic on their part, and we have to fight it every step of the way.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question for you. Go ahead to Representative Wood, please.
Good morning. I have an idea for your roadways and for your pheasants, your sage hens, but the driver's license fee, if you up it $1.50 every time somebody goes and gets a driver's license for a couple of years, that ought to help. And maybe if we were allowed to shoot ravens and whatnot to prey on the eggs, that might help too.
All right, good comments. Fred, would you respond, please?
Well, I can't argue about any of that at all, particularly with respect to the predators. We had a presentation here in front of the legislature about work that's being done in Wyoming, where they set up cameras to watch sage-grouse nests once a sage-grouse hen had been found to have a nest and started building a nest and started laying eggs, and the ravens just clean out the nest on a daily basis. I mean, they've got it on film. They just come in and take the eggs right out of the nest, because the hen, of course, leaves for 30 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever on every 24 hours, etc. They clean those right out. So, yeah, with respect to predators, that has changed, and we need to continue that. With respect to the driver's license fee, $1.50, etc., isn't even a drop in the bucket. With respect to the amount of money involved to fund the transportation, you're talking about, $100, $200, $300 million annually for a significant period of time. That exact figure, I don't know. It depends upon how much work you really want to do. So increase in driver's license fees, et cetera, is not going to do that. You're going to have things such as increase in fuel taxes, et cetera, of a few pennies a gallon to accomplish something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But excellent thoughts, and I really appreciate that.
Fred, as you look at our state, final thought here this morning, as you look at our state of Idaho and then look at surrounding states, whether it's Wyoming, Utah, Nevada, Oregon, Montana, whatever, how are we? How are we shaping up in the Northwest? Are we a leader, or are we falling behind?
No, I think we're actually out in front. Interestingly enough, I try to catch your program periodically, and I did listen for part of the program yesterday when you had Speaker Bedke on, and he talked about the income tax in Idaho versus Utah.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a very small part of the picture, however, because Idaho, if you look at overall taxes, Idaho is very, very low, one of the lowest states in the western United States. So we're leading in a lot of areas. We are one of the top 5 business-friendly states in the United States for businesses to come. The issue we have with respect to that, in my opinion, is our educational workforce. If you're an engineering company and you're coming here, you're not going to find a lot of engineers in Idaho, and that's one of the things that's holding us back more than anything, is our workforce issues that we've got to address. And that's why this education thing is taking number one priority.
Okay, we've got a caller with another question. I've only got 2 minutes left. Caller, go ahead, please.
Hello, Fred. I was just wondering about road taxes on electric cars. How are we going to deal with that?
It's a good question.
That's one of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
That's why an awful lot of people are kind of coming back around to saying, okay, is there a way that we can have some kind of a weight distance tax in Idaho, taking into account the very issue that Zeb brought up? If I've got a vehicle and I put 75% of my miles on that vehicle out of the state of Idaho and not in the state of Idaho, then how are we going to deal with that? There are people working on that right now, but that is one of the big issues, is how are we going to develop a revenue structure that takes into account vehicles that don't run on fossil fuels, but actually run on electricity, solar-powered vehicles in the future, et cetera, et cetera. Excellent question, caller, and and that is being worked on. And I appreciate the call.
Thank you.
Representative Fred Wood, I hate to run, but I've got to pay some bills and get ready for the next hour, and I just want to say thank you very much for being on the program, and don't hesitate. Anytime you have some information, please call us and come on the program.
Thank you, Zeb. Talk to you later.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. A gentleman that I really admire and respect as one of our legislators, and that's Representative Fred Wood from District 27, and I certainly do appreciate all of his answering the questions here this morning. We've got to have a weather update. Holy cow, Gina's going, we're late. Yes, we are. We've got a weather update right now brought to you by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls for all your guns, ammo, and accessories. Don't forget Red's Trading Post. And believe me, they've got what you're looking for, along with the most knowledgeable people at Red's Trading Post in Twin Falls. Here now, Michael Rogers Weather.
Hi there, Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. For the next 10 days, sun and clouds. No precipitation in the forecast. This week, we're going to see daytime highs in the 70s. Next week, we're going to see daytime highs in the 50s. But other than that, for today, get a nice-looking day. It's going to be on a bit of a breezy side. Winds are going to be out of the southwest, about 10 to 15 miles an hour. It will continue through this evening. 77 for the high today. They are looking to break a record with that particular daytime high, 51 for the overnight low. Enjoy the weather. It is the only weather you got.
Thank you very much, Michael. Brought to you this hour by Red's Trading Post. I love the folks over there. All your guns, ammo, and accessories, and knowledge. They can help you at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. By the way, don't forget, too, I know another place where the fun is sold. That's their motto. Let's ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley, open Tuesdays through Saturdays, 9 to 6. Oh, my goodness sakes, don't you dare forget they've got all the ATVs, all the different sizes, all the different colors, all the accessories. They've got it all. You can just absolutely stop in. That is where the fun is sold. Can't wait to start going up in the hills on my ATV. We got them at Let's Ride. You better believe it. And the watercrafts are coming in every day. Pretty soon it's going to be fun on the water in the sun. Oh, yeah. And if you ever have any problems, they've got the best parts and service department around. You better believe it. Let's Ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Yep, that's where the fun is sold. Really good people. Oh, we got a couple of minutes left. Time for a phone call, and I think what we'd better do real quick is we'll see how Gina's doing over there this morning. Busy day, my dear.
It has been a busy day, and of course, Fred, always welcome on the show. And I love the fact that our local legislators are so accessible to us.
You know, I don't care where it is in the Magic Valley. I've said this on the air, and I mean this. We are blessed with people that really care. And I mean, you know, I don't want to exclude anybody, but I know that I talked to Clark Kaufman the other day. I talked to Lee Hyder and Scott and Dean and Fred, and I hope I didn't forget anybody. They're all, when I call them, I don't care if I call at 6 in the morning, they're always very accessible and ready to come on the show.
Exactly, and that's what I love about living in the community that we do, and honestly, in the state that we do. Our elected officials always make themselves available to pretty much anybody. If you have a question or a comment, they will listen.
Absolutely. Gina, real quick, we want to remind everybody one more time this hour that Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North is coming to town for a Night of Patriots, and today's heroes will be Saturday at the King Fine Arts Center in Burley at 7 o'clock, and believe me, for tickets, call 436-4149, and I suggest also to go to the website, Sergeant Chris Workman Scholarship.com, and
Yes.
tickets are also going to be available at the door.
Yes, they will, and if they need that link, they can just get onto your Facebook page. Just go to zebbell.com, click on the Facebook widget, and then tomorrow we are also going to be giving away a pair of tickets.
Yes, we are. And by the way, too, I also want to thank, before I run out of time, Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. These folks are absolutely a great asset to the community in the area. Minor emergency, major care. They're open Monday through Saturdays, 9 to 9, Sunday, 1 to 7. And believe me, walk-ins are welcome. No appointments are necessary. Believe me, and they've got the goals of making you feel better really quick, saving you time and money. And they specialize, like I said, in minor emergencies with major care. The doctor will see you now, not in 4 or 5 days. Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center, 382 North Overland in Burley. Okay, what have we got coming up for the rest of the day? I want to tell you that we've got next hour Dr. History, and then at 10:30 this morning we're going to have Raft River coach Randy Spaeth on the program, and Randy's going to come on the show, and we're going to talk about how very, very tough and hard it is to be a coach of any athletic team today. Things have changed, attitudes have changed, and we're going to talk to him about coaching right now in 2014. All of that and more coming up. But right now, the news from ABC. Zeb at the Ranch. I'll be back in 6. Oh, goodness. Here we go. Hour number 3. Zeb at the Ranch on a, what the heck day is it? Tuesday already. My goodness sakes, April the 8th. And, of course, Zeb at the Ranch brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, along with some of our great advertisers. And we say thank you very much to Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and Western Way Services. Always at your disposal. Get on the route service today, 734-6969. Oh, listen, yesterday I had a little discussion because everybody had to tell me what spaghetti carbonara was. I learned, thank you very much, at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Today's my kind of a day. Today is my kind of menu where I don't have to ask questions about what it is. It's meatloaf. I love meatloaf with choice of potato, veggies, and super salad at the Chadwick Sports Grill. Nice people, really nice people. Great environment. You're going to love all the sports memorabilia, and the food is fantastic at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley, 878-0380. And today, meatloaf. Didn't have to ask anybody, knew all about it. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, this man was there with Sacagawea. This man was there with General Custer. This man was there with Billy the Kid. And this man was there with Jesse James, and we still don't know where he put the money. Here's Dr. History.
Good morning, Zed. How you doing this morning?
Oh, not too bad. How are you, sir?
Well, I was with all those people in spirit.
Well, you buried the money, and that's why you could afford the office.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's my new hobby. Digging up gold.
What in the world is your historical and sometimes hysterical facts going to take us to this morning?
Well, and there's a little of both of that in this story today. Have you ever heard of the Dalton gang?
Oh, yes, as a matter of fact.
The Dalton brothers?
Yeah, well, they were some bad dudes.
Well, sort of.
Oh.
That's what I'm going to talk about today.
Okay.
Right? Now, Frank Dalton, he was the oldest of the brothers, and he'd kept the others kind of in good behavior. He was actually a deputy U.S. Marshal, and his brothers had ridden with him in posses. Now, Frank Dalton, the oldest, he was killed when he was tracking a horse thief into Oklahoma Territory.
Mm-hmm.
Dalton and another deputy marshal located this fugitive and with his companions, this was in 1887, and when they went to arrest him, well, the outlaws resisted, and Frank Dalton was shot dead. Well, 2 of the outlaws were killed, and Dalton's companion was wounded, but anyway, this is kind of the beginning. Following in their brothers' footsteps, the remaining brothers, Grat, and it's not Grant, it's G-R-A-T, Bob, and Emmett. They became lawmen.
Okay.
And in 1890, however, after not being paid some money that was owed them for some work, the brothers became outlaws themselves. And Bob Dalton had already killed his first man when he was only 19 years old. So here's the mistake they made, all right? I'm going to talk about the Coffeyville bank robbery. And this was not thought out real well, but if you can picture this, here these 5 guys come riding in from the west on a nice, crisp October morning in 1892. 5 young men, they laughed, and one thing and another at the sheep and the goats along the way, having a nice, lovely autumn morning. Well, in a few minutes, they would kill some citizens who had never harmed them, and in a few minutes more, 4 of these guys would be dead.
Oh, my.
So here's the story. These young men planned to rob the First National Bank and the Condon Bank in this little town of Coffeyville, Kansas.
I've been there, as a matter of fact.
Have you?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 3 of the men were the brothers named Dalton, and they knew the town, or they thought they did anyway, because in the past they'd actually lived nearby for several years.
I see.
So not so long before, Coffeyville had actually been kind of a rough town. It was a railhead town. It was custom to trail herds. wild cowboys, lots of booze, barroom fights and such. But by this time, it was kind of a prosperous, peaceful town. It was in the middle of a wheat farming district and a quiet settlement where the town marshal, who was actually a school teacher, filled in as the lawman. He didn't even carry a gun. So you can kind of get an idea of what Coffeyville had evolved into, just this peaceful little frontier town. Well, the Dalton boys knew that the law was already breathing down their neck because there was a deputy marshal who was after him by the name of Thomas. He was on their trail and only a day or so behind them because their last train holdup, the Dalton gang had shot down a couple of unarmed citizens. And you just don't do that.
No.
And in doing so, they'd committed one of the few mortal sins on the frontier. You see, both the men they had shot were doctors. And it's an unwritten law that the doctors are a protected profession in the West. You just don't shoot doctors.
That's why on Gunsmoke... I was just going to say that's why on Gunsmoke, old Doc Adams was never harmed, nary a hair on his head.
No, he was never shot.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so they were determined to pull off one final job. And this robbery would equip them with enough loot to take them far away from the pursuing lawmen. So Bob Dalton, he was the leader of the pack. And there was also a little bit of bragging rights that they wanted to have attached to this Coffeyville raid. You see, they would do what they boasted that no outlaws had done before. They would rob 2 banks at once. And this was something that even their famous cousins, the younger boys who were now in prison, had never done, nor Frank and Jesse James had never done this. So this is something they thought they wanted to have as bragging rights. Now, more than a century after this raid, much of what really happened that day is a little fuzzy. So what I'm going to tell you is kind of, hopefully mostly fact, but some of it we just kind of have to fill in. So now part of it is the question, how many bandits actually rode up out of the Indian Territory to steal the savings of these hardworking citizens? Most say there were 5, but some argue that there was a 6th man who, once things started getting bad, he took off, leaving his buddies to die under the rifles of the Coffeyville citizens. So anyway, Coffeyville was pretty much unprepared for a raid from the most notorious outlaw gang of the day. It was just this, like I said, just a peaceful little town with wheat fields around, and nobody carried a gun. Now, the gang might have gotten away with stealing the citizen savings, but Coffeyville was a town where they'd made some improvements. Now, one of the improvements that these guys didn't know is that the hitching rack that they were planning to tie their horses to was gone. They didn't have a hitching rack anymore. So this came as a bit of a surprise because where they were going to tie up to do the robberies didn't take place. So they kind of rode around the streets until they found a spot in an alley. And there they tied their mounts to a pipe that was in this narrow passage, which is today called Death Alley. And some of them actually attached fake hair to their faces, like fake mustaches and beards, thinking that nobody would recognize them. And together they walked down the alley, 5 dusty men carrying their Winchesters. Well, they crossed an open plaza where several streets came together, and they walked into the 2 unsuspecting banks. Now, Bob Dalton, he was kind of a tall, handsome dude. He was the leader, and he was a pretty intelligent guy. Pretty fearsome reputation as a marksman. Now, Grat, he was the oldest, and he was what you'd call a little slow.
A little slow.
A little slow. As I tell you what happened, you'll realize that he wasn't the sharpest guy in the tool shed, I guess. But he was described as being kind of like a bull calf, but the disposition of a baby rattlesnake. So you got Bob, you got Grat, and now you got Emmett, and he was the youngest. He was the baby of the lot. He was only 21 on the day that this took place, but he'd already experienced robbery. And now this family, they came from a family of 15 kids. There were 15 in their family.
Wow.
And their mother was a gal by the name of Adeline Younger. Okay, now she was an aunt to the outlaw Younger boys.
I see.
And we've talked about the Younger gang before. So this kind of ran in the family, I guess you could say. Now, backing the Dalton boys were two experienced members of the gang, a guy by the name of Broadwell and Powers. Now, Powers was a Texas boy who'd punched cows down on the Cimarron before he decided that robbing people was easier than working. And Broadwell allegedly kind of went wrong after a young lady stole his heart and his bankroll. That kind of set him off on the wrong path. So. Anyway, so Grant Dalton led Powers and Broadwell into the Condon Bank. Now, Emmett and Bob went on across the street to the First National Bank. Now, inside, they threw down on the customers and the employees and began to direct the bankmen to deliver the bank's money, and they said, be darn quick about it. And, you know, they said darn.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's in the verbiage from the old days.
It's exactly what they said.
Yep.
You guys be darn quick about getting that money. And what the robbers did not know was that somebody, probably a storekeeper or somebody, who had known the Dalton family when they lived near Coffeyville before, had recognized one of the brothers as they crossed the plaza. So he quickly spread the word that the Daltons were in town, so the citizens began searching for weapons. Okay, so now we got 3 guys in one bank, 2 in another, and next door to the one bank was a hardware store called Isham's Hardware.
I see.
And it looked out on the front door of the towards the Condon Bank and into this plaza. And from there, it looked straight down this alley that we call Death Alley, where the gang had left its horses, about 300 feet or more away. So Isham's Hardware and another hardware store started handing out weapons to anybody who wanted them. So more than a dozen public-spirited citizens armed themselves and prepared for the gang as it left the bank. Okay, now inside the First National Bank, Bob and Emmett had taken a sack full of cash. The brothers finished up their looting, collected some hostages, and then pushed out the door into the plaza, and that's when all heck broke loose.
Oh, my. And I'm sure history recorded it as heck, too, didn't they?
Yes, that's when all heck broke loose in Coffeyville, Kansas.
Oh, darn.
Darn. You know, the first shots were fired at Emmett and Bob, and they dove right back into the bank, which was the smart thing to do. Bob shot one citizen through the hand, and then he and his brother ran out the back door. And they kept going, circling around through a side street out of sight of the waiting citizens, and sadly, they killed a young store clerk along the way. Bob was ready to do the fighting, and Emmett's function was to carry the loot in a grain sack. And that was standard equipment for the robbers of the day. They all carried a grain sack.
I see.
Now, inside the Condon Bank, Grant had started collecting a pile of silver, but it was so heavy that it would take more than one man to carry it. And then when he got down to the portable cash, he'd been entirely kind of bamboozled by a young employee in the bank, a guy by the name of Charlie Ball. He told Grant, he said, we can't unlock the vault because it's on a timing system, and you're going to have to wait for 8 more minutes. Well, Grant, as I mentioned, wasn't exactly the sharpest tool in the shed, and so he just kind of stood and thinking, okay, well, I got to wait 8 minutes, and one of the other bank employees actually went over and kind of shook the door, which actually was open, and all Grant had to do was go over there and just open the door, but he was kind of, like I say, bamboozled by this one employee. So this 8 minutes saved the bank treasure and actually cost the Dalton gang its existence.
Oh, my.
So anyway, old Grant Dalton, he took in this lie pretty much, and so he didn't even pull on the doors, which if he would have, they would have swung open. So anyway, Grant, instead of trying those doors, he just stood stupidly and waited for the hands of the clock to move, while outside the townsmen loaded their Winchesters and found cover. Well, about the time old thick-headed Grant began to suspect that he was being had, somebody outside fired a shot, and the Battle of Coffeyville was on.
Oh, my.
Now, the gathering of the defenders over at the Isham's Hardware store opened up, and one especially courageous guy crawled up on the roof and began shooting with his pistol. And anyway, bullets began to punch through the windows of the Condon Bank, and one tore into one of the robber, Broadwell, hit him in the arm, and he said, I can't use my arm. So you've got Grant, Broadwell, and Powers in this bank, and they couldn't match the firepower of the citizens. I mean, there were like 200 shots going through the windows and the doors and all this, and one of the defenders over at Isham's Hardware was hit in the chest by a rifle round and knocked flat. but all he got from it was a bruised chest because it had hit a wrench that he was carrying in his shirt pocket.
Wait, whoa, stop, just a minute. The guy's carrying a wrench in his shirt pocket?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he's over there, one of the citizens, and when the slug hit him, it just knocked him down.
Okay.
It didn't hurt him at all.
Sounds like the Dalton gang would have been better served if they'd have used the drive-up window.
Yeah, these, like I say, they didn't plan this out very good. So, anyway, the townsman's heavy and accurate fire convinced even old dull-witted Grant that it was time to go, so they left behind their heap of coins, and the three outlaws, again, did something kind of stupid. They charged right out into the plaza, running for their horses, which was down the alley. They ran straight into the line of fire of the rifles at the hardware store. There was no cover for them all the way down the alley, and it must have seemed like everybody in town was shooting at them. And like I say, the citizens in the hardware store, they opened up with their rifles. And now here's where Grant's lack of good sense showed again. He could have led his men around a corner, or he could have gone out the back door, but he didn't. So he would have been out of sight of the riflemen. But like I say, he wasn't real sharp up this. So anyway, the shooting continued, and like I say, Grant led his men right out in front of the bank, right into the killing zone.
Oh, my.
Running hard for the alley. They were shooting, snapping off shots, and all three of the outlaws were hit before they reached their horses.
Oh, my.
I mean, witnesses said they saw dust puff from their clothing as rifle bullets tore into them. So those three are, pretty well about had it. Meanwhile, Bob and Emmett, they had ran out of the First National Bank down an alley and around a block and still out of the defender's sight. Well, they came in behind the townsmen who were still facing down the street. And Bob shot down a shoemaker armed with a rifle. He shot down another guy, a Civil War veteran, killed both of them. And then he shot another guy through the cheek. And then the outlaw brothers fled, trying to get to Grant and the horses. Well, they kept a block of buildings between them and those deadly rifles, and then they turned down a little passage and came in an alley about the same time that Grant and the others got there. Well, about the same time, the town marshal appeared in the alley from another direction, came in between them and their horses, and Grant, already wounded, shot the lawman down from behind.
Uh-oh.
That's such a brave act, Well, the town's most expert shot then put already wounded Grant down for good with a bullet in the neck.
Mm-hmm.
So here we have Bob and Emmett. They're running down the alley, and somebody nailed Bob. They got him, and he sat down on a pile of cobblestones and was dying. Still shooting, though. And then a bullet came into Bob's chest, and that put him down to stay. So the outlaw leader of the group, he was dead. Powers lay dead. All four of them were dead. There was one guy actually Broadwell wasn't quite dead.
Wasn't quite dead?
He rode a ways before they finally got him.
Okay.
Now, we're getting close to the end. I know we're running out of time here. Anyway, Emmett, the youngest brother, by this time there were 4 citizens dead, 3 more were wounded. The man with the rifle slug in the cheek was seriously hurt, but he was okay. 4 bandits had dead, and Emmett was punched full of holes.
Oh, my.
20 shots.
Holy
in Emmett.
cow!
But he wasn't dead. Okay. So he was carried up to a doctor's office, and while the doctor was at work, there was a group of citizens that came in. They were mad because, the death of 4 of their citizens.
Sure.
And they came in carrying a rope. They were going to tie the rope to one end of the telegraph pole outside the doctor's window and attach the other end to Emmett and throw him out the window.
Absolutely.
Well, sure, get rid of him, but the doctor said, no, don't worry about it. He says he's going to die, so, you don't need to hang him. He's going to die. Well, unbeknownst to them, Emmett was saved, and he went to trial and spent time in the Kansas State Penitentiary. Now, typical of that day, the 4 dead bandits were propped up to have their pictures taken, and you've seen pictures of that, where they prop them up and they're dead and there's holes all through them. Took pictures of them vertically and horizontally, and people actually came far and near to see the corpses and collect souvenirs.
Yep.
Bits of cloth, hair, and so on. Some brought their kids thinking that seeing these dead bandits would keep them on the straight and narrow path. Now, some of the sightseers indulged in a little bit of a weird experiment in hydraulics. Somebody discovered that if you moved Grant Dalton's arm up and down like a pump handle, blood squirted out of a hole in his throat.
Oh, my goodness, Dr. History.
I thought you'd like that.
Yeah, that was a real addition to the story.
Well, like I say, I don't know what you do for entertainment in the Old West, but
I think I know what the moral of the story is. I really do. I figured out what the moral of the story is. Okay. Internet banking is a lot safer.
Yeah, don't go riding into town that you don't have a plan. But
holy man.
Anyway, this is pretty much the end of it. Emmett, the youngest brother that survived, he said there were only 5 bandits, but some say there were 6, and there's a lot of speculation as to who a 6th man might have been, or actually a 6th woman that dressed up like a man. But anyway, there's a lot of speculation, and nobody really knows if there was even a 6th person. Like I say, there's just a lot of speculation about that whole thing. But anyway, so passed the Daltons into one of the most famous and badly executed holdups in the history of crime. I mean, Bob and Grant are still in the Coffeyville Cemetery, and they do have a headstone, but anyway, they've actually planted a piece of this pipe that they tied their horses to.
I see. Hey, I got to ask you, whatever happened to Emmett? I mean, did he live a long and fruitful life once he got himself all put back together?
Again, 20 bullet holes in the guy.
Yeah.
He lived. It actually says that Emmett married in 1907. He married a gal, and let's see, I don't know when he actually died, but I think he was convinced to carry on a more honest living after that.
You think?
I think that he learned his lesson, since he was the only one left out of the Dalton gang.
Well, it'd be really interesting. I mean, 20 bullet holes. This guy had to be tougher than a piece of wood floating in the ocean for 20 years. I mean, this guy, 20 bullet holes.
Yeah. Yeah, this is pretty amazing. And I've told stories before of people who get a lot of bullet holes in them and still survive.
When they took him to prison, how many wagons did it take to haul him over there?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, like I say, this doctor basically saved his life.
Yeah.
Not only from the bullet holes, but saved him from the citizens that wanted to hang him.
Man, oh man, the end of the Dalton gang. And ladies and gentlemen, you did a really good job in creating a real aura of suspense. And even old Grat wasn't very smart. I mean, he met his demise.
Yeah. But they almost got it. Well, I shouldn't say. I don't think they even almost got away with it.
Yeah.
They wanted the bragging rights of robbing 2 banks at the same time. And their cousins in jail, the younger brothers, they probably heard about it, and I'm sure they did.
And
they wanted to be the ones to do something that nobody else had done.
Well, they did. They kind of wrapped up their whole life's history in one day. So there they go.
Yeah, I've got a picture of them right here in front of me, of the four of them laying there dead as can be.
Yeah, with the little 5-year-old pumping that right arm. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one's Grant, but. Yep, that's the Coffeyville bank robbery.
There you go. Dr. History has done it again right before lunch, and we appreciate it. God bless you, man. We'll see you next week.
All right, you have a good day, Zeb.
Dr. History, better known as Dr. Ken Turner, chiropractor in Burley, and we certainly appreciate his efforts on Dr. History every Tuesday right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Hey, by the way, I want to say that we have every Thursday a segment on our program that we call School Days in Cassia County, and we have 2 wonderful sponsors for that segment, and they are A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. And don't forget, right now at A Child's World, they've got all the spring and summer fashions coming in. They've got over 300 spring dresses beginning at just $20, and if you mention you heard the ad on Zeb at the Ranch, you get an extra 10% off. And they've got all the suits and the games. It's a family store waiting for you. A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And we also want to acknowledge Ambulatory Surgery Center Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. And for the Surgery Center, I want to remind everybody about the life-saving colonoscopies and the surgeries. Over 100 surgeries done there every month, saving area residents thousands of dollars. Contact them today. Call 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center, 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley, and A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County on Thursdays. Right now, we're going to take a break for about 3 minutes. We'll be right back. Don't you go away.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much, and we're going to have our next guest on the program momentarily. But before we do that, I think we'll change the schedule a little bit so we don't have to interrupt him, and we'll do our weather forecast with Michael Rogers Weather, brought to you this hour by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road in Jerome. And don't forget, this is a custom meat processor serving Southern Idaho for over 20 years. Scarrows Meats offers quality products at very reasonable rates, selling taste one bite at a time. Be sure and get a hold of the friends at Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Right now, here's Michael Rogers Weather.
Hi there, Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. For the next 10 days, sun and clouds. No precipitation in the forecast. This week, we're going to see daytime highs in the 70s. Next week, we're going to see daytime highs in the 50s. But other than that, for today, got a nice-looking day. It's going to be on a bit of a breezy side. Winds are going to be out of the southwest, about 10 to 15 miles an hour. It will continue through this evening. 77 for the high today. They are looking to break a record with that particular daytime high, 51 for the overnight low. Enjoy the weather. It is the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, selling taste one bite at a time. They are excellent. Gina said perhaps we're having a little trouble trying to get a hold of Randy Spaeth. He said he was going to be in a meeting and he would step out, and if you wouldn't mind keep trying him, I'd sure appreciate it.
You got it.
I appreciate it. Thank you much. We're waiting to talk to Coach and Athletic Director at Raft River High School, Randy Spaeth, and evidently not answering his phone right now, and hopefully he'll pick up on that in the next couple of minutes. While we are waiting for him to answer the phone, excuse me for having a frog in my throat, I'd like to acknowledge again that this coming Saturday night, April 12th, at the King Fine Arts Center, don't forget we're going to bring in literally world-famous Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North for a night of Patriots and today's heroes. And for ticket information, call 436-4149, 436-4149, or go to the website SergeantChrisWorkmanScholarship.com. And it's going to be a great evening listening to a truly great American, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, this Saturday night at the King Fine Arts Center. And in the news, one of the story this morning that I did not get a chance to talk about, and for all gun owners, here we go. Joe Wolverton, our old buddy that was on the air with us a couple of times in the last 2 weeks, warning us that as the Obama administration goes along, there's going to be many, many more restrictions put upon gun owners. Did you hear that now Eric Holder with the Department of Justice wants you and I to put on a tracking bracelet if we want to shoot or own a gun. He is calling it common sense reform to gun ownership. Now, for all the gun owners out in the listening audience this morning, you ought to be outraged that basically the government is going to try to track you through a mandatory gun bracelet, a tracking bracelet, if you own a firearm. And here's what I'm trying to think here. What one of the things that they said they learned when they were trying to pass these common sense reforms last year, Vice President Biden had a meet with technology people, and they were trying to figure out how guns can be made more safe by making them either through fingerprint identification, and then the gun would talk to the bracelet that you're wearing, and that would notify the gun that it's by the right owner, and then and only then would the gun fire. This is absolutely ridiculous and treating gun owners like they're common criminals that have already been accused and the verdict has come down against them on a crime, and they have to wear a tracking bracelet? Oh, my goodness. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, I got news to that, Mr. Holder. When you follow the law and obey the Congress and you go from your contempt court and Congress, then you tell us how in the hell we're supposed to handle our guns, because we're a lot better people than you are.
Al, this is nothing more than a technology to basically tell gun owners, we're going to watch you 24/7. You have no more rights according to the Constitution and any of the amendments, and you're guilty until proven innocent, and I think that this is absolutely the mark of the beast.
Well, I've got more rights than he has, because he's supposed to be up on charges for contempt of Congress, and that means impeachment. Why don't Bonnier, who was mouthing off last night on this Kelly file, why don't he put in and say, okay, we're got to do it, we're going to do it right now?
I agree with you, but Al, little by little every day, every single day, this administration coming out with more rules, more regulations, more twisting of the Constitution, more taking away of our rights. I wonder, Al, how many people in this United States would abide by a tracking bracelet?
Let him try it and just see how many people he goes against him. Because if they can't follow the law and the rules, then don't be putting them on anybody else.
I agree with you.
It's the House of Representatives that is holding us up for prosecuting him. When they do their job, we'll be a lot better off.
I can't argue that. I just read this, and then I saw the story on this morning. And here's a question for you and all gun owners out there this morning. If they're going to make it mandatory to basically have the tracking bracelets along with the so-called smart guns with the fingerprints, what are they going to do with all the gun owners, legal gun owners in this country, with all the guns that they own, whether it's a 22 or a 12-gauge shotgun? What are they going to do with all those guns? I say, that's where Joel Wolverton came in a couple of weeks ago and said that's where the confiscation program probably will get started.
Yeah, I mean, because this is ridiculous. They can sit there and make rules, yet not a one of them can follow it. And as far as I'm concerned, Eric Holder is the biggest obstruction to justice I've ever seen. He's let murder go by, guns for hire, and all that stuff go by. Cross-the-border guns. Mr. Holder, you do your job and leave us the hell alone.
Amen, Al. Thank you very much for your call this morning. I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You know, I was looking at this, and naturally, and I'm glad they did, the National Rifle Association opposes this technology, and they said, quote, we are opposed to the government mandates that require the use of expensive, very expensive, unreliable features such as pistol grips that would read your fingerprints before the gun will fire. Here you are in an emergency situation, and you might be holding the gun wrong, your fingers might not be in the proper placement or whatever, and the gun won't fire because of the technology that's going to stop you from pulling the trigger. This is asinine. And to wear a bracelet, come on, gun owners, call me and tell me, would you ever concede to the fact that you would have to wear a tracking bracelet because you're a gun owner before you could own and or shoot a gun? And this is being considered.
Trying to track you. That's just more government control trying to track you.
You know, this is so scary. You know, we've heard stories about the mark of the beast, the accepting of the mark of the beast, and to me, this is just literally part of that program.
It is, actually, and I was reading this story. I brought it up, and the Justice Department has requested $381 million in increased spending for the next fiscal year for gun safety.
Yeah, that's right. An additional over $380 million for gun safety programs. And you know as well as I do, those aren't gun safety programs. They're promotional programs to get you away from guns and or with the tracking device.
And also included in the proposal is $2 million for gun safety technology grants, which would be awarded to prizes for technologies that are proven to be reliable and effective.
Absolutely. We have a caller?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Zeb. I don't know about you, but I put my hands into some pretty tight places throughout the day doing my regular duties. And a bracelet on my wrist all the time just to use a firearm when I needed it is a hazard, a safety hazard to me as far as getting hung up on something or getting in the way and getting lost. You lose things. People lose wristwatches all the time. I think it's just ridiculous.
It's absolutely incriminating. It's saying to you as a legal gun owner, we don't trust you, we're going to track you, big government's going to keep their eye on you, the computers are going to know every move you make, where you are, etc. They're going to know everything about you. It's nothing more than Big Brother and the single eye of the government making sure that they track you and treat you like a criminal.
It's like marking people, and I don't want to use the whole thing as a Holocaust, but they mark people during the Holocaust with little symbols on their clothing. It's going to be that way. You're going to have a wristband that shows that you're carrying a firearm. Everybody's going to know when they see that on your arm that it's that what you got going on.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be a secret. It's not going to be a concealed weapon because everybody will know what you have.
Well, they're using the mistake saying that these technologies could make it easier for law enforcement to tell when guns are missing or stolen. Bunk. All they want to do is make sure that they put the finger down on legal gun owners and literally trash the Second Amendment. Riley, thanks for your call. I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Yep. Talk to you later.
Calls are welcome and appreciated at 436-2244. What?
I was just going to tell you, I did get a hold of the coach. He is finishing up with his meeting, so he should be calling any minute now.
Well, time is wasting, and I have a full segment waiting for him, so I hope he does that relatively soon. Give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Little by little, every single day there's going to be something coming out that's going to make it more of an encumbrance and more of a negative against anybody trying to protect themselves or be a gun owner. And if you're not understanding what this bracelet would do, it would only work with a smart gun, which in other words, it requires your fingerprints. A smart gun requires the shooter to be wearing a bracelet or watch with an RFID chip in it that communicates with the gun and allows it to fire. And in an emergency, all of that must take place. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hi, Zeb. You just touched on what I was going to bring up, that RF, chip. That Edward Snowden, that they did the big deal over not too long ago, I watched the deal on him last night, said that Barack Obama is trying to get everybody outfitted with these chips. And now they're putting them in prescription drugs to track you.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, where did you...
Last night it was on the History Channel, and they was doing an interview with this Edward Snowden, is the guy, and he was a member of the NSA.
Uh-huh.
Said that they're doing that kind of tracking with these chips. They're... Your cell phones, if you've got a camera phone, they can turn your camera on without you even knowing that it's on. They can watch you. They record all of your phone calls. They can do all this different stuff. They got these drones that are flying over that can literally be 10,000 feet in the air and zoom into your house and basically do an X-ray of your house to see where you are. They're metering your power and your water bill to know exactly every morning, you turn the coffee pot on first thing in the morning, they know that's what that bump in power was. The microwave, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
You're spot on as far as what you said, as far as the government knowing every single thing about us. But, I read a book, and it's simply called Drones. And it was a fictitious story that was centered around the truthfulness that we have drones in our lifestyle every day, and we don't know really how much that we're being watched or how much is being recorded. But, I really have a fear that when the general public develops the attitude that they want to own drones, what's going to stop the general public from creating mass mayhem by putting something like an explosive device or whatever on these drones and flying these drones and creating mayhem anywhere in the country that they want? Sir, we're living in really some dangerous times right now.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And then, that's not just the only thing. They were talking about using larger insects, cockroaches and the horseflies and bumblebees and stuff like that. They can use them, and they actually go in and put this microchip on their back with a little camera, et cetera, and drill into their brain, and they can control the bug.
You know, the thing you said about prescription medicine, now, I had not heard that they were putting something in prescription medicine, but when we make an allegation like that on my program especially, I want cold, hard facts or something written so that I could read it. If you know of any sources where that information is available, I want to read it, study it, and then I'll put it back on the program. But I would not put it past this administration. I would not put it past this government trying to do something like that to basically have us ingest a tracking device that would be with us 24/7.
Well, see, and that's the thing is when they said that they were going to put them in the prescription drugs, it's supposed to be for people that are forgetful. You know, it sends a signal to your phone to remind you to take your next pill. Or when your body is needing that pill again.
All right. Well, sir, I appreciate...
So that's the medical version they were trying to push forward. You know, if we can get everybody that's on prescription drugs to take these, well, yeah, it's for your benefit. You know, it's for your sake. It's for your health.
Let me ask you...
Anytime they say it's for your benefit, you better watch your ass.
Amen. I agree with you. Thanks for your call. I appreciate it. God bless. Have a good day. Thank you. Gina, I heard you clearing your throat.
Well, I just brought that up, and in New York, and this was actually put out last year, January 15th of 2003, and what they're trying to do is put microchips inside the pill bottles, not the pills themselves, but the pill bottles for tracking devices for people who lose their prescription medication.
Does this not bother you? Does this not make you afraid? Does this not make you wonder what in the world is going on in this, the land of the free, the home of the brave?
Yeah, it really does. It's Big Brother. They all want to track us. They all want to know what we're doing, and if we're doing something wrong, then it's all recorded. And, you know, just we are the land of the free, but we are letting big government control us to the point that we have lost our freedom.
This program and everything that we've said this morning, every time I have a important national figure on this program, whether we talk about certain aspects of politics or whether it's any subject that's in the news, is being recorded and disseminated by people with the NSA. We know that for a fact. It's not an untruth, because every talk show right now, regardless of where it is in America, is under subject of scrutiny, and they're listening and verifying what is being said and what's not being done. But when I look at the situation of having to wear a bracelet, a tracking bracelet, like we were common criminals on a work release program, the thought of this just makes me absolutely reek with fury against the government, our government, the United States and its Constitution, to think that these idiots are going to try to purport that to us.
Well, and I think, honestly, if you look at the big picture, if this is actually passed, then they will exactly know who has guns, where they are, and if we ever move into a martial law situation, guess who they're going to detain first?
You know, we have no security anymore, because I was reading, and maybe you've got the same story that I have, that various states are doing so much against gun owners. You mentioned New York State, and they're offering a $500 reward for anybody to come up with a list of gun owners in their area, and these are legal gun owners.
I know, and whose business is it to know whether I own a gun or not?
And here's something else. How many times did your brother or your family or friends of yours maybe have let's say a 22, or maybe a shotgun, or maybe a Winchester 30-30 passed down through the generations, maybe from grandfather to grandson?
Yes.
And now in Connecticut, law-abiding Connecticut gun owners may face felony charges if they don't go down and register that gun. I would be willing to bet you that there are at least 70% of the guns in this country today that have been handed down father, son, grandfather to grandson, whatever, are never registered.
Exactly. My dad has guns that were passed down to him from his grandfather. My son is going to have guns passed down to him from his father and his grandfather. This is just ludicrous, and it's more paperwork, and it's more money, more taxes, and just basically the government wanting ultimate.
Yeah, but you know, it's one other thing, though, Gina, and most of all the items that you just mentioned, it's self-incriminating.
Yeah.
And
we're not doing anything wrong, but, you own a gun, so, therefore you're going to be considered dangerous, so martial law situation, you're going to be taken out first.
Absolutely. Calls are welcome. Gun owners, you should be outraged that Attorney General Eric Holder is even thinking of this. And the common sense that he says is a common sense gun reform mandating that gun owners would have to wear bracelets before they could activate firearms. This is absolute insanity. It's against everything this country stands for, but that's the problem with the Obama administration. It's against everything this country stands for. It's against our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. And to listen to this kind of garbage, I saw the news clip this morning about these bracelets. I have the story right in my hand. Gina's got it over there at the studio. This is absolute insanity, incriminating honest people to protect themselves.
Isn't that in the Constitution where we have that right?
Take the fifth. I shall not testify because I'm afraid that I might incriminate myself. Well, now we're already considered guilty and we have to wear a bracelet? Are you kidding me?
I'm not wearing a bracelet.
Calls are welcome and appreciated as I'll talk a little bit about a spring tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Absolutely a big tire sale with all the different tires on sale and ready for you. You betcha, whether you got a car, pickup, SUV, horse trailer, boat trailer, whatever, you stop in and get the tires you need right now at the Big Spring Tire Sale. And don't forget there's 7 locations serving you with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The very best. And don't forget, too, they got the best in brake service. All the shocks and struts, the front end alignments, the batteries, everything at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Big tire sale going on right now. You stop in and see them today.
Got the coach for you.
I'm not going to take him right now, and please tell him that he'll have to call at another time because we were scheduled at 10:30, and I can't put him on the air right now. I just do not have the time. So we'll have to reschedule that. Thank you, Gina. I appreciate it. My time here is really valuable, and I have to have the segments in full, and I do not have time right now for a 5-minute short segment when I have very important questions to ask, and we'll have to reschedule that. Caller, go ahead. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, I'll say it this way. Eric Holder needs to be the second one taken out.
Well, we're not going to talk about anybody being taken out on this program, but the asinine and very uneducated programs that they're trying... Wait a minute, we both can't talk at the same time. But the asinine programs that this government and this administration are trying to administer to us, it just absolutely reeks of being unconstitutional and un-American.
Amen.
Hey, all right, sir. Thank you for your call. I do appreciate it. Calls welcome. Still have time. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. When I have a segment scheduled, I want it on time and not with 5 minutes left. And so, therefore, to do justice to the topic that we were going to talk about, we'll try to reschedule in the future. But I will not just get into a subject and spend 3 or 4 minutes on it and then have to rush and hang up. So that's not appropriate on this program nor any talk show. Tomorrow, don't forget that we've got Doug Johnson calling in. And then at 9:30, we're scheduled to have a interview with Governor Butch Otter calling in at 9:30 tomorrow. And then at 10:06, and I want to remind everybody, we're going to rerun the interview that we had with Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North on March the 10th. And, of course, for the big speech coming up in Burley on this Saturday, the 12th at 7 p.m. at the King Fine Arts Center. Then at 10:30, I just talked to this lovely lady this morning at my time about 7:15, and I called Dr. Elena George, and she is going to be coming on the program talking about how devastating Obamacare has become. The costs are skyrocketing. The coverage is going down. And also, she's going to be visiting about Dr. Ezekiel Manuel, that he's made some comments about limiting coverage, medical coverage, to older people. So we're going to be talking about basically that Hemlock Society that was insinuated with Obamacare. Well, now it might be coming true. And we're going to have her on the air tomorrow morning at 10:30. So, what are you going to do when you're off the air today, Gina?
You just caught me with a mouthful of cookie.
What kind of cookie?
From Sophie's Chatterbox. It's chocolate chip with walnuts.
How did you manage to conjure up all the cookies at the station?
A gentleman by the name of Scotty Cameron.
Scotty is a cookie delivery boy?
Apparently so.
You know, my favorite cookie, and it's so simple. I love just plain sugar cookies. Just plain sugar cookies. I don't want any frosting on them. I just want plain sugar cookies. And I would go off my diet any day of the week to scarf down about a half a dozen of those cookies. I love sugar cookies.
Snickerdoodles. For me, the ultimate is a snickerdoodle.
Deanne likes chocolate chip, but I get kind of sick of chocolate chip.
Well, you know, I like to eat the chocolate chip cookie dough batter. I like to eat the cookie dough. I'm kind of guilty of that, but when it comes straight on down to cookies, what my favorite cookie is a snickerdoodle.
Now, honest appraisal here. When you eat a kind of an Oreo, quick question, we only got 30 seconds. Do you separate it and eat all the cream out of the middle?
Yes.
Me too. And I'm 66 years old.
It has to be the double-stuffed Oreo cookies.
There you go. We'll have a box delivered tomorrow. Hey, I got to run. 8:06 tomorrow morning, Zeb at the ranch. I'll be back. We'll saddle the horse and ride for 3 hours. You have a great day. The way things were, the way things ought to be. I'll see you tomorrow morning.